All right, guys, welcome to the first iteration of Vampire Vibes. This could be a future series. Oh, shit. I'm tuned into my own stream, so I'm getting an echo. There we go. All right, we have the whole gang here. We have a whole bunch of fantastic content creators: Bogdy, Chapel, Chipsa, me, Persis, Regulus, Terrible Timmy, Vertalt, and Grim XV, along with Jeremy, the game developers. One of the game's developer here with us, and we are going to go over a bunch of topics in relation to 1.0 and going into 1.1, coming the 28th. The first topic that we have here, we wanted to talk about the official wipe cycle. And I think a lot of us think that 3 months is a little bit too long for an official wipe. I think most servers, whether they be vanilla or not, do not get played for the length of 3 months. And if anybody wants to weigh in on that, what you think would be a good length of time, because we would like to see a little bit of a shorter wipe cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Don't all jump at once.
I feel like sort of the length of wipes is always going to be sort of a mixed opinion type topic, isn't it? Because like some people prefer the longer ones, others prefer the shorter. But I guess that's kind of where community servers comes in as well, because you have these like short wipe community ones that bring that experience for anyone that prefers the short wipes.
Yeah, I think the sweatier crowd and the modded servers definitely do better with shorter wipes, but even the vanilla, I think, suffer from losing player pop at a pretty significant rate towards the end of a 3-month cycle. I don't know. I mean, like you said, it can vary, but I would like to see maybe a month or a month and a half. Probably a month and a half would be a nice sweet spot for it. 2 months maybe at the maximum.
So it's actually nothing new, but it's just sort of the way we have things working out. So we thought one issue we had when we were initially putting the wipe cycle together. I'm so glad we're talking about this because this is something that this is actually one of the things that I do handle directly.
Hell yeah.
And one of the things that we were really worried about when we first implemented wipe cycles is that it creates this very awkward moment where you are you buy Vrising. And you're like, I can't wait to play. I hop on the official servers. All of them are wiping in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That is extremely awkward and just like a bad experience.
Yeah.
So we started, we do an offset. Like we basically have, we open our initial servers and then in a month and a half or whatever is halfway between, oh, someone says I'm really quiet.
Somebody does say it might be I'm going to up the stream Discord audio. All right. My output is now higher. I don't know. Maybe I could increase your volume.
Hopefully it's better. But okay. So to tackle that, we basically have whatever is the wipe cycle of a server. We launch another set of servers at an amount that we think will like roughly hold like whatever the interest of the population hopefully is at like halfway through that. So that we constantly have 2 sets of servers that are offset by half the duration. So on a 3-month wipe cycle, there actually are servers opening once every month and a half.
Okay. That's definitely an improvement that you'd like to see. Because like you said,
it's happening right now.
Jeremy, for server settings, have you guys considered brutal mechanics on normal stats?
Yes, actually. One of the things that it was when we put out brutal mode, it was something that people kind of immediately asked for. So we made the server settings in such a way that you could decouple those. Like you can choose like on your server to do brutal mechanics, but without all the extra brutal stuff. We on official servers don't want to make so many different granular settings options. Because when you do a granular setting option, you also have to do that like it. What's the word? It's not multiplicative, but what's the word when like it's like something like the number times itself? Like, because every
Exponential?
time, yes, it's exponential, because every time you add a server, you have to add a duo version of that server. You have to add a normal, like every time you add one type of server, you're actually adding like 3 types of servers. And that starts to become a huge issue, especially when you are doing it for every region and you want every region to like have the same amount of options. Like, especially when it comes to C servers and South American servers, it is actually very hard to get good hardware in those areas, like good server hardware, in an amount that you are able to provide a huge variety of servers. So instead, we're trying to focus on doing a good base experience in as many as we can within that like number, if that makes sense.
What do you think about maybe having almost like a rotating schedule on those server settings? So for instance, you had like, let's say there was like a 1 month that's the basic, or a 3 month, whatever you decide is the basic. I feel like maybe the 1 month would probably make more sense.
Yeah.
And then on the 1 month wipes, you kind of like cycle those. So like maybe 1 month it's, because obviously it's only gonna, if it's like quote unquote a bad experience, it's only gonna be there for a month, if that makes sense. So like 1 month you have just like the normal 1x whatever, and then like the next month it's, hey, normals with brutal mechanics, and the next month it's, hey, it's this. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I've actually thought about doing that. I've actually thought about having basically seeing if I can get a sort of, so like we have the standard amount of servers, right? Like we have like, these are all the basic ones. And then I thought about trying to sort of calculate out how much space we have on like other types of servers, and seeing if we want to do like a few specialty servers of like fun, weird stuff that cater to very specific communities. In a way, this is kind of how merciless servers already are, because the merciless population tends to die out pretty quickly after a patch. It's just a very brutal, intense setting, I guess. But like, no matter what we try with those, there is a very specific community that really likes them, but it is a pretty small community. So we try to have like those servers available, and that's part of why we put them on a 1 month cycle. Also because that community, I think we've noticed, like really likes the faster wipe cycle. They really like the starting out fast, and with it being on a 1 month, that actually means it's 2 weeks, right? Because we're offsetting it. So I've thought about that, but I think in one way, it kind of goes against the philosophy, right? As like, once you start doing a bunch of like fun setting servers, you kind of go against your messaging that we are only offering the normal one, and then you should go to private servers for like the other stuff. I think that starts to eat into private servers as well. And also, once you do that, then it becomes really hard to say no to people who are like, okay, I want a duo brutal, I want to try solo servers, I want to try like all of these other options that are way closer to what most people would want, right?
Right. That makes sense.
So, two good things that have kind of been, or one good thing, I guess, that 2 people agreed on that was brought up by my chat, which makes sense. Has there any consideration for a more in-game focused wipe cycle? Because like Garlic here initially said, and then Bardo agreed, people tend to quit wipes when they feel like they're behind, or they lose an engagement, or whatever the case may be. Whereas if they felt like the obstacle was getting to end game, and then they had content circulating around that end game, once you're at that level, is there any focus or any initiative to consider that?
I don't think so. We're not really trying to make Vrising like. Well, sorry, my headphones randomly turned off again.
Technical issues. Gold star to Chipsa for the exponential answer to
back.
You listened in class.
Thank you.
So, wait, they're back off again.
This guy.
Need a nice wired headset. Never runs out.
Right? I went to wired earbuds a while ago, and I haven't looked back.
Sorry about that.
You're good.
Yeah, they do this a lot. They're very annoying. Anyway, I think we want Vrising to be kind of the game it is, and not try to fight to make it a game that you have to play forever and that you feel like obligated to play forever. We want the end game part to be fun. Like, we want you to get there and then have fun, interact with other players. We want raiding to be fun. We want it to be good. But it's not a situation where we kind of want to end like an end game grind thing, because that's not really what the game is.
Okay. Yeah, you want it's more focused on the progression.
Yeah.
Got it.
I feel like some of the stuff revealed for 1.1 like might potentially help with server longevity. Like, especially it could sort of bring more PvP players into PvE servers and vice versa, because you have like the whole like dueling and arenas. I mean, arena servers do have like the most longevity of anything.
That's true,
so
yeah.
it'll be interesting to see if that will like be the same on officials or not. Because at the end of the day, wiping's like the best way to refresh player count more than anything.
Yeah, it's kind of our hope that. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Hey, Post-Edit Grim here. My mic was actually not being recorded on the initial hour of this, so I wanted to just jump in and kind of share insight on what I was saying here. On the topic of arenas, I was basically saying that, in my opinion, this is a net positive for all communities on Vrising, because you've got players that are going to be setting up entire base plots of custom arena game modes, right? Like, imagine Attack and Defense. I know back in the day in Gloomrat we used to do Hunger Games as well, so really net positive addition to the game. Back to the video.
100%
Yeah, and
agree.
I also think one thing that I'm really hoping to see with Arena is that it just makes PvP a lot more approachable. One of the issues with it, I think, is that it's hard to engage with without risking a lot. Like, if you can't even start to get into it, like the barrier to entry is like kind of terrifying. But now, if you're on a PvE server and you just want to try it out, you can. And then if you start to like it, you're like, oh, this might be fun in the overworld. Maybe I want to try a PvP server sometime. And then you get attracted to that and you want to try that out. You get some friends together, you go roll together. Maybe you get wrecked, but maybe you get lucky and you end up on a server with people who like show you the ropes. I know. Yeah.
I was going to say, because funnily enough, that's like the exact kind of thing that ended up bringing me to the game long term. Because I initially first played it just as like a sort of quick PvE thing with friends. I didn't really have much of an interest in the whole like open world PvP, but getting to play like arenas where it's just low stakes and like really relaxed, like that makes it a lot more appealing for sort of anyone like V that is more put off by the high stakes, like taking away time from progression and all of that bit.
And then
By the way, I just want to ask a little thing on this feature, the new dueling system that we know of. Is it gonna be further expanded so the PvE players can also experience the raiding experience, maybe?
I don't think so.
Because
Probably not.
okay, yeah.
I'm
I was
not
gonna
sure
say like
how
they
we make that
can
work.
do the dueling, but maybe the a simulated raiding would also be like a cool idea. But I get it if it's
It
down to
sounds
dueling.
difficult.
That sounds
I think that
rough.
would be really cool, but I don't know how we do that, especially because
I got you.
You gotta
I mean,
hook
that's
them
what
with
would be modded on a private server, right? Have like a raid server, because they have that sort of thing in. I think they have the sort of thing in Rust, where you go on like servers and you can raid and all that sort of stuff. I mean, we had a private server last patch where we did like internal raid testing.
Yeah.
So if that's probably what it would be.
You got to hook them in with arenas first, and then when they get to live or to PvP servers, then they get to experience the joys of raiding.
Yeah, I mean, raiding in the current state right now. It's like it's very unintuitive, right? You think, oh, I'm just gonna bring 1 or 2 golems to this guy's base and crack his base, and it's like that's not how it works. You need like 20 golems to raid somebody, and you need bombs. You need to really know what you're doing in order to even start with raiding, right?
Yeah. And then he's got like 100 door frames and 10 staircases, and you're like, what is going on here?
Yeah, and there's a ton of honeycomb, and then there's a racetrack going around the top floors, and hopefully that is what we do have that topic on here that we did want to touch on. So I think we can maybe transition into that a little bit too in rating. Jeremy. We hope that there would be something in the future of Vrising to allow for solo rating, and I don't remember who it was that suggested it. Forgive me, but one of you wanted to talk about the potential for different types of golems, maybe an AI controlled golem,
Yeah, that was
things of
me.
that nature. And I would definitely, coming from these other games that have these sorts of mechanics in them, raiding mechanics like Rust and stuff like that, the ability to be able to solo raid is like huge, especially for somebody who genuinely just wants to play solo. That's what I plan on doing when 1.1 hits. I plan on going into a duo server and playing solo, and it's not really a reality for me to ever raid somebody that is anywhere close to my skill level that has a duo, because it's just never going to work, right? So is there any plans for that in the future?
So I wouldn't say it's like a super common ask, but it's like a fairly common ask that people ask for. This kind of ties into our back. It ties back into our last conversation about different server types. People ask for solo PvP servers, because a lot of people they want to PvP, they want to play solo. One reason we don't do that is because it just absolutely does not work at all with raiding. It doesn't make any sense with raiding in its current state. And yeah, I think it would be cool to make something like that available. I feel like we have internally messed with some of these ideas before, but had not found something that works perfectly in the amount of time that we had to mess with it. So I'm not going to say it's completely impossible that we do something for that, but right now we're really focused on fixes for rating. Like we have like the front. There's like a bug with the front like entrances with like pillars that made it like unbreachable. That's fixed. We're making it right now. The fix is that golems can hit stairs to sort of like re-trigger the raid timer. So that's going to be a change that's going to be in. It is a little bit more complicated to make it breach, and I'm not sure if we can do that without destroying everything. But we'll look at other ways to improve on it. In the beta, we're probably going to be doing some raid testing to figure out if there's anything else we can do. But yeah, so we're trying to improve basically the main issues with raiding right now. But we aren't doing any like major raid features.
I gotcha. So to talk about the stairs specifically, we had a couple ideas on it, and so I played a wipe of VWorld a long time ago. I think I only ever played one wipe of VWorld, but they allowed to where you could make one of your prison cells like electrified, essentially, to where like no matter if you got raided or not, nobody could touch the prison cell. That one was immune to anything, and the potential to have that sort of feature maybe for one stair on each level of floor could potentially alleviate the issue with stairs being just overall impregnable. Because if you as a base builder choose the wrong staircase because you want to choose a defensive staircase and you're trying to grief the raiders or whatever, then your whole base falls down as a result or something, because you wanted to make that decision or whatever. But having like one staircase, or maybe even we also talked about the stairs after being destroyed becoming like ethereal, kind of like when you use a key, where they can still be used, but they just aren't there to block you from the sides, but you can still go up them from the front, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of the problems with stairs exists because okay, so I don't know how many of you have been here since early access, but since like the beginning of early access, like pre-Gloomrot, but there used to be no such thing as second floors, and we didn't do second floors in Castle, even though it seemed like a thing that a castle should have. Because Vrising is actually a completely 2D game. It is not 3D. It is entirely 2D, and everything that seems 3D is either a visual trick or tech magic. And
that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So the idea of adding
crazy.
second floors was basically, to us initially, we're like, this is impossible. Like it is impossible, or it would be so much of a mess that it would be such a waste of time to even try to develop it, because we don't know if we could do it, and if we did do it, it would probably be super buggy and have a lot of and be super messy. However, It was in such high demand that we ended up trying to tackle it anyway, and somehow we ended up doing it. And one of the results that came about from that, one of the awkward results, is that the way stairs work now, they cannot be destructible. For them to both exist and not exist at the same time, the way the logic works of how you walk in that space, it'd be bad. I don't know how to describe it other than it would be bad.
Got it. Understandable.
So, yes.
I mean, I'm pretty
So-
sure
wanna ask-
the change that you guys did to make the stairs trigger attack timer when you hit them, I think realistically should be a massive fix to rating. Like, it's not going to solve the problem completely, but like, it should make it so that you don't, because the problem you had before is if you had this massive maze of stairs, you had to walk your golem all the way through these stairs to hit the wall to re-trigger the attack. Whereas now you can just walk up to the first stair, hit it once, and your attack time is re-triggered. Then, like, you still have to get in there to break the wall to get the breach, but
yeah,
like
I'm
the
curious
window
to
punish is
see
much smaller.
what happens with it
Yeah.
because I'm hesitant to say that like what direction it'll end up in. It might end up being exactly the same. That's why we need to test it.
Well,
there
I
are
think
just so
the
many
rating
factors.
is the completely fixed because the thing is the wrong thing, the bad thing about raid right now is one, the staircases are being abused too much and you cannot hit it. Two, castle entrances don't take damage. And that's literally it. So now the staircases are under-attackable. So this prevents people to put a staircase right in front of the staircase that goes up to the base. So Golem can range attack that and re-trigger the attack timer. So this fixes this issue. And the other issue, which castle entrances don't take damage, is going to be fixed as Jeremy said. So there is actually like no issue.
I'm always hesitant because people are very creative. They're very creative and good at coming up with new techniques. They will shock you, and that is one thing about being a game developer is it beats the hubris out of you. So
You never see all the cases.
yeah, exactly. It's
Nobody's gonna have a
no
video.
human being can predict what like thousands of other times your amount of people will be able to come up with. So I am not sure, but I really want to see what happens because there is potential that it makes it disadvantageous to build with lots of stairs. It actually just makes them into a indestructible position that can constantly re-trigger breach, and you might actually want to move them to a defensible position away from the front of your base. And that might actually lend to like more interesting and better castles, I think, that are less weird and awkward. Or it could end up making something way weirder. You know, you never really know. So gotta test it. Gotta watch for what happens. But I'm a little hopeful. It's also worth mentioning that on officials at least, we're going to be like moving up golem health on squads to make them like a little more durable. And then in addition to that, I think the way it's kind of turning out with like the stat changes, I think vampires are a little more lethal than they were before. I think lethality is a little bit up. So I don't know. I don't know where it's going to end up. There's so many like moving parts. And I don't know if it's going to end up with an attacker advantage, a defensive advantage. I think if we had to choose whether there should be an attacker or defensive advantage, we'd want it to be a defensive advantage.
Yeah,
because
it still would have to be.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, then everybody just gets their base caved in and nobody wants to play anymore. Speaking of one more rating topic that I know we wanted to touch on and people are curious about, the the farming for hours for infinite, honeycombs and racetracks in your base. I know I briefly mentioned something to where you could maybe have like all the health of a raid like dependent in terms of structure health dependent on your initial breach, and then like I don't know something to where it's open past that or something so that it's not because you have right now, right? Like I said, you have the infinite farming for honeycombing and racetracks and whatever else to grief people from getting into your castles, and all the castles that none of them look visually appeasing per se. You go on like PvE servers and they have all these cool PvE castles and it's like, oh, this castle's so cool, but if you build that in a PvP server, your castle is going to be done in like 5 minutes, and is there any consideration for that going into the future, or is it just kind of the way it is?
It's interesting because when you think about the way players who are looking to defend their castle above all things think, they are thinking in terms of like, I need to do whatever is the most optimal strat for doing that. So
Right.
if you make a mechanic that sort of pushes one sort of behavior, the end behavior, in my experience, is usually not, I'm going to make a cool castle. Like, if, for instance, we made only your outer wall matters and the inner walls actually become disadvantageous to make, then you're going to have castles that are one outer wall and a huge amount of empty space, and then like a castle hard on the other side. Or if you go another direction. The funniest option that I've heard, and this is when we were just like spitballing funny ideas in the office, was someone had the idea of if you hit a castle wall and it breaks, it damages the castle wall if it's within one space of it. So like the rubble from the castle wall does a bunch of like splash damage and then makes it disadvantageous for you to have walls next to each other. I have no idea what that would end up doing aside from maybe having like
It'd be a labyrinth.
You
It
make
would
a
just be
labyrinth.
a giant
you
labyrinth.
just have a honeycomb, but with
Yeah, it would be consecutive layers that are just outside the one space
that
radius.
are one space down. So it'll
I
be
mean,
like
Golem already does that.
a bit of a labyrinth, which actually, I mean, is what real castles look like. So maybe it would work. But the closest I think we've come to actually encouraging people to make cool castles that look like castles is the room mechanic and the flooring mechanic. I think that actually ended up working really well. But aside from that, I think most of the way, if you put your finger on the scale to try and like force extremely specific behavior, I think you're just going to end up with a different, weirder behavior. So I haven't heard a good solution yet.
Yeah, I think the way it is
So
now.
what I
is
wanna,
because-
yeah, what I wanna
I think
add
the way it is now.
is-
Okay, you go on. Go on.
Okay. So the thing you could do is, in one breach timer, the more walls you break, the more damage the walls that you hit take. So you first breach, and then you hit like 200 with the golem to the first wall. So then after you break like 5 more walls, it increases to 300, it increases to 400. And if the breach ends, the damage resets to the 0. This might reduce the players that does this long labyrinths, because the more walls you have, the less meaningful they are. But still, the players will want to have more walls because it's still at least 1 or 2 hits.
Then you'll probably just still have a honeycomb then, right?
Yeah, but still,
if it provides any advantage at all.
The thing is, it will be easier for the attackers. Now it is very favorable for defenders because they can put like in a medium base, I can put like 100 doors to reach the 3rd floor and the 2nd floor, like literally 100 by making a labyrinth, like L-shaped, 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 L-shaped. But
The
then
snake.
when we have this, when you have the snake, so when we have this, you break the like 10 walls, and then the next door is just one tap with the golem, one tap with the golem, one tap with the golem. So it will be way easier for attacker to go to the 3rd floor without using a key.
It's definitely something to think about, especially considering that raid windows are standard 2 hours long, right, on officials. And like, you know, when you think about, you know, raid windows in these games, and normally they're only at the end of the week for a couple days, you want to get as many raids in as possible. You know, some bases that like I'm sitting there looking at and I'm like, oh, I know I could raid that. I could definitely raid that. I could get the loot out of that, but it's going to take me better part of an hour and a half to raid. So, you know, it's not going to be fun. I'm going to be banging my head against the wall literally for like an hour. I'd rather just raid a bunch of these other bases. I can raid. It'll take 30 minutes each to raid these. Maybe they have something, maybe they don't, but at least I don't have to like, I'm not playing the knock wall down simulator, you know?
Yeah. I think one thing that actually, because a big factor of that is also like, if I raid this place, will it actually be worth it? Like, will it be worth the amount of time and resources I put into doing this?
It is 90% worth.
Yeah, it's like it can be kind of a huge issue, and I think
just emotional damage that's the real benefit.
Yeah,
yeah.
But I think something that affects that a lot right now that we put in is the clan hearts. I think like limiting the amount of castles you can have, limits also the amount of vampire boxes you can have, and your ability to take things and like move them between castles. There's a little bit of pushback when we announced that there would be one castle heart per PvP server or per squad on PvP servers. Yeah,
No, that's good.
I think
that's great.
I think it should be one.
No, it certainly should be one. There's nothing.
Definitely should be one.
You don't want to like getting through a base because that's the end game, right? Everybody's going to build up all their bases so that they all look like the loot store, and then like the knock wall down simulator, and then an hour and a half goes by, and you're like, oh, we got nothing, guys. It only cost us all these resources to craft all these golems, but these guys had it in one of their 3 other bases. So I completely agree.
Just loot lock it.
So I'm kind of looking at this as potentially a transitionary period where we're kind of getting people more used to the idea. I think like the jerking back from 4 castles to 1 castle might feel a little extreme, and I think people will look at what happens on duo servers, and because duo servers will only have 1, and they'll be like, "Wow, that's so much nicer." And then when we transition over, I think people will be much happier.
I think that's going to help.
Or maybe I'm wrong, and it'll end up that 2 castles is better. I don't know. We'll see. But
I was going to
we
say I
can
think
adjust this at the wipe.
Sorry, I was going to say I think it's going to help PvE servers so much too. By the way,
I hope so.
Castle heart thing so much.
Yeah.
There's so much.
The thing with having
so much
multiple
problem with
castles,
Farbane being full. Yeah.
The thing with having multiple castles on PvP servers is a lot of times, let's say you win the raid and you got the key, whatever. You get up to the loot room and they've already shuffled 90% of the core loot you want into the castle. That's couple plots away or whatever. That's a huge issue with raiding right now. So going to the 1 cuts all of that out. As far as like the whole race tracking and all that, I'm not too keen on we need to adjust anything in terms of, and this is me playing devil's advocate that way, but I'm not too keen on thinking we need to adjust anything more than what you already spoke about with the stairs, because we already have bombs, we already have keys to kind of like get rid of all that. And a lot of players are going to want to feel safe. Like, if you take the time to farm loot, you don't want to have some guy that comes in more experienced and just breeze past everything you've done because you're not aware of the game mechanics. So I think we'll be in a fairly decent spot. Fingers crossed. We still have to do some testing to get our hands on it to know for sure. But I think it's a huge improvement. My next wish would just be for more mechanics to actually get siege or get breach.
It's funny you mentioned
one
that.
thing to say.
Go ahead,
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
Are you sure? Are you sure? Okay. Listen, one thing about the rating that I would like to see with these changes that you specified, where a lot of the things that were abused even in 1.0 are going to be gone. One of the things that kind of makes sense, but is not a thing in Vrising, is having walls be more durable than doors. Because as we have the game right now, we have a lot of door spam. And everybody is encouraged to place doors instead of walls, because why not if they're accessible and they have the same HP? So that change where we have walls be proper walls, and they're going to be twice as durable maybe than a door, it actually forces people to put more thought into the way they design their base. One of the issues with this door spam is even at the edges of the base, Verdult is a master builder, and he can explain the best how you can abuse this right now by constantly going in and out of your pretty much what should have been your wall, the
It's
most
always
outer side of your base.
a wall that you can open and shoot at them from, and then close the wall. I mean, it is just better. I agree. I've thought about this a lot actually, because on one hand, you don't want your entrance to suck. It's like it's kind of unintuitive, right? Like I would expect the entrance to be good at not being forcibly entered, but I mean, you're right. Like this is kind of where it ends up. I don't know. I think it's a good suggestion that would have had kind of that over time. You can kind of see that there might have been downsides to how it plays out, but time has passed and we have seen how it played out. So I don't know. It could be a good suggestion. I'll see.
Right.
Yeah, but it's still exploitable, I think, because now I just thought about it, and it's very easy to get past that. You put walls. You just put walls at the outer places, like 2 to 3, because like it's your breach point. It's where you should have the high health ones. Like just make the walls the outer, not the second one anyway. So you put one staircase at the left side that is going out, and you put one staircase that is at the right side that is going in. And on that right staircase, you leave a place empty, so you can drop down. So you can get out from that one staircase, defend your castle. You will have walls, and if you want to go in, you can just go in by the other staircase. And if the raiders try to jump in, they have no way out because it's just walls and the doors inside. And golem cannot shift down anyway, so it will still be the same in my opinion. Like, it won't change anything.
Couldn't you also just have like a different kind of door, like that you're limited to only one of, like designated as like a front door, which is more tanky than normal?
That's what somebody's talking about.
Garage
in my
door.
chat right now.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, then then plots with 2 entrances would just get totally griefed.
Yeah, I was gonna say you'd need 2.
Oh. Yeah.
The difference between a good plot and bad
you
plot
need,
would
like,
be.
Well, you
six
could
on
just place 10 of them in a castle. Like, it's limited, like lock boxes or like prison cells. 10 doors, like 5 double doors, 5 single doors, something like that.
Yeah, that might
like 1 per level of Castle Heart or something.
And there are ones that apply to that mechanic does also apply to other things that aren't that, right? Like, we have like the Dracula's throne, and like that is basically just an object. So as a non-programmer, non-game designer guy, I think it might be possible. I don't know. I think it would be interesting to put that on like the big gates or something. Like, make the big gates durable and limit the amount you can do. It's not like people were like tossing down 15 of those anyway.
Right.
Unless they are.
I mean, to be honest,
something that could be limited anyway, like limited to the number of any castle would be like you have prison cells or whatever else. You could do it in the same fashion.
I mean, I don't know. I think the way raiding is right now is like, especially with the changes you said, is pretty good. I think the only change I'd ever consider is that, like, when you place, like, when you get raided, right, you lose your door and you're repairing your door, right? When you repair when you put your fresh door down, it starts at full HP. And yes, there's like I don't know how long it's like 8 seconds or something where they can hit the door and it'll destroy. It won't trigger breach, but it'll destroy. But the door will still stay at full HP. So if you ever lose the attack and they place the door and you can't hit that door within 8 seconds, all of a sudden it's full HP immediately, which means resealing becomes really easy. Whereas I'm pretty confident in a game like Rust, when you put down a fresh wall after it's been breached, it will start low HP and then it will like regen over time. Is that a mechanic you thought about adding to the game?
I mean, that would be kind of consistent. I think that would kind of already happen, right? If you spawned a castle wall and it was at like, I don't know, 10% HP. If you have a castle heart that's full of blood, it would then start regenning.
Yeah, but
right? That's what
I'm saying is that if you get breached, right, and you have a low HP, let's say you have a low HP door that's the weak point, and then the attack stops. What you do is you just destroy the door, and then you replace the door, and it immediately goes to full HP. So you don't have to wait for you don't have to wait for the castle heart to repair your wall. So the point I'm making is that that's a really frustrating part of the game, because it's like you get the door down to 1 HP and you're trying to bring your last golem back up to breach, and they just destroy the door and replace it immediately and it's full HP. And I'm just thinking, if it started on low HP and then regened over, let's say, 5 minutes or whatever, it means that if you then, because I think with defending a raid, what you want is to encourage the defenders to actually go out and force the raiders off their land.
Yes.
And ideally kill them, rather than just having this like idea of just constantly turtling inside their base, just repairing their walls and just like destroying the golems, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the system that would help that.
To be clear,
one thing I want to add on this
is mostly that what you were suggesting, if we made it like the change to that would have to be like, if we wanted to implement that change, I think all it would have to be is that when you build an item, it starts at low HP. And it could be that way on PvE servers. It could be that way across the board, and I think it would work, right? Because it doesn't really matter to PvE server.
And it's just a global timer.
It can be 1 HP. It's the only thing that affects is a golem hitting the wall, right? And it has no difference. So yeah.
That's an interesting
what
idea.
I want to suggest in this is
that that I don't know about, but
yeah, I mean, like I could just show you, like not show you, but like in my vast raiding experience, let's say, so many of the raids that you fail, it's like you get the wall 1 HP or you get the door 1 HP, and then just before you get the golem to hit, they destroy the wall, and even if they don't replace it, right, or even if they replace it and you hit it. Yeah, you have to go further and you have to destroy the next one, right?
Yeah.
And like that mechanic is really frustrating.
I mean,
Yeah, so the
getting
better thing would be
timer
just
off.
not removing the thing. No?
What, sorry?
So what I would suggest is don't make the walls put like 50% health, like low health when you put them, but just you cannot remove anything when it's low health.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I see
that,
what you're
that
saying.
still would
He's
fix
got
the
us
issue
there.
because no, because you could that doesn't really work that way, because then if one of the doors gets destroyed in the raid and then you're trying to reseal, you're still resealing on full HP, right? The point where you're resealing is that when you're resealing the base, your bases should still be vulnerable whilst you're resealing. But the way the current raid is, the second you reseal that first door, they have to start from scratch. They have to break that full HP door, and then you can reseal every other door in. As long as you reseal the first door, you're completely safe pretty much until a golem comes and hits your door from full HP again.
Well, the thing is, even like, do you even let them reseal when you breach once? Like, if you breach once, it's just over because you can just leave one wall, one health, and it's just done.
Well, yeah, but that's,
So
I mean,
the first problem is the first
assuming you're
breach.
winning the raid, right? Like, assuming you get pushed off at the point that the second that they put the first door down to get the resale, they've basically defended the raid, right? Like, if you're talking about like having the golem ready when the breach time ends to re-get attack time, well, that's not the situation I'm talking about, right? Because you're already in control in that raid situation, so that wouldn't affect it regardless. It's just when there's so many edge cases where you're just about to break down a door, it gets destroyed, or you just miss out the attack timer, and the punishment for missing the attack timer by like a second is that you basically just never can complete the raid.
Yeah.
And I would suggest that like we should implement both of them, because when you're first, like before breach, the first breach, they could just remove and not place anything. So
That's
make
true, yeah.
both removing not possible when it's low health, and make when you put something it's low health. So this would remove both not removing it and putting it.
Well, it could start from the bottom. There should be a maximum penalty for placing during a raid anyway, right? And outside of raid timers, like, it doesn't matter what the health of your walls are. It's not like the bear on your property is going to try to break down your walls or anything. So like placing it from 0 and just having it increase over whatever the global timer would be. I don't know if what that should be, 5-10 minutes, whatever, but having it increase from 0 to 100 just after being placed, whenever is should be fine. And then you just have to be careful not to build your base 10 minutes before raid window or whatever the case is, and it would never be an issue.
It would be interesting if these mechanics would only sort of take effect during raid time.
Yeah.
And like, while during raid times, if you place a thing, it starts at low health and has to build up, and also you can't remove things like I do a lot of lore stuff for the game, so I'm immediately like, my lore brain is going like, yeah, that totally feels like logically consistent with like the lore of, if you were to try and make lore for raid times, it would be totally consistent. Like, these are the times that like
the witching hour
weekend, like these are the times
Jinx.
where it, like
Exactly. Yeah.
and like, therefore, like, when you build stuff, it's weekend. It's the time where you're vulnerable. Like, that would all make a lot of sense, I think, like, intuitively.
Wait,
holy shit!
Now that you say stuff like this, did you guys ever think of making the raid time? The whole raid time should be something like a like a blood moon, but different. You know, like a different type of
like a different sort of. It
feeling,
would be cool.
atmosphere.
A full moon or something. Have like
atmosphere
beams
change,
of light coming down from like a full moon or something like that. That would be dope.
I think
Honestly,
there's a lot of ideas, but you guys can definitely play with some.
Well, I think in theory, making it just night would be nice, because there is like a pretty obnoxious form of defense called like the sun defense. I don't know what you want to call it, where basically you have your entire bottom layer. You just have floors. You don't have any walls, and the entire enemy team during the day is just getting absolutely blasted by the sun. And because you have you can just go in your castle, it's really annoying to play. I mean, I don't really know that would make much of a tangible difference, and I guess it would also lessen defensive diversity, because that is quite an interesting strategy.
Yeah, I was gonna say there are some plots that just flat out won't work if you don't have that strategy. Like, there's one on the right side of or east side of Farbane that like you basically build it from the second tier, and it's just got like, it's all open on the lower tier, and you pretty much have to sun trap that in order to be viable. That'd be the only issue.
Then you just add umbrellas as deployables, so you can.
Well,
Wait,
so
Umbrella RP, I like it.
somebody talked about an eclipse or an eternal night. It makes me think of like Avatar: The Last Airbender, if you guys have seen it, when the comet comes or whatever, during the raid timer.
watch
But that
anime,
also, okay, you're booted. Anyway, the it kind of makes me think of something else though that we don't actually have on the list of topics that we wanted to talk about, but something that I thought about that I forgot to put on there. The sun, obviously, I get it's part of the lore. It is very frustrating on vanilla settings. Very, very, very frustrating. And I was wondering if there would ever be a possibility of an item, sort of like how you have, capes that block out garlic resistance, holy resistance, whatever else. If there could be an item maybe where you get off some boss where you could build it, and maybe it's a different form of jewelry, or it's a hood or whatever else, and you could wear it, and maybe it blocks out 80% or 100% sun, and then I don't have to punch holes through my monitor when I'm trying to PvP and I'm losing 80% of my health to sun or something.
Use the blood key.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think so. We've experimented with that idea before. We had like there used to be an armor, and if you could get through the debug commands, that was the Twilight set that basically removed sun resistance. It's a thing I think we played with, and then the more because there was a period of time where we were like, we don't know, as a game developer, there's always a period where you're like, I don't know how people are actually going to receive this. And for some time, I think that was us with the entire sun mechanic. We were like, are people going to find it super annoying, or are they going to like it?
I was thinking, yeah.
It was obviously a little mixed, but we were actually, surprisingly, people like it way more than they find it annoying. And which made me happy, because I thought it was, it makes our game more interesting and more unique and more vampire-y than your average survival game.
I think it's a really cool mechanic, because it also in PvP it acts almost like a pseudo equalizer, right?
Yeah.
Because like, even if you're a really good player, if you get caught in the sun with your pants down, you're gonna get fried.
Yeah.
So and as well, like, I don't know if you guys ever do this. Maybe it's just me. If you play too much Vrising, you go outside in real life, and then you
stay in the shadow.
Yeah, I've never done that.
It's crazy brain, bro.
Never done that.
That's funny. I don't think that's happened to me in real life. I think I have transitioned off of like a long like V-Rising sesh into another game, and I've found myself trying to stick to the shadows and then just being like, wait a minute, what am I doing? Yeah, that's funny.
I was thinking about like diversity of tier 3 cloaks, like Tail of the Archfiend gives you 75 sun resist, or
that would be cool too. That would
Phantom's
be cool.
Veil gives you some special thing. So then you want to farm tier 3 cloaks.
Yeah, having a little more sun resist might be good. I don't know. As a not a designer, just my whatchamacallit, my disclaimer. I'm not a designer, so there can be, maybe there is a place for it, and maybe ultimately not up to me.
Well, I think with the sun as well.
Generally hesitant to add something. So like there are some types of gameplay that I think we're okay with removing, like like a game feature essentially. We're like, yeah, we're okay with removing this because it feels good to become powerful enough that you no longer have to worry about this anymore, right? Especially when it comes to like Q quality of life features and stuff like that. Like you get to a certain point and you're like, I am too important to be doing this anymore. I have other things that do this for me. A lot of that is like some of gathering materials, for instance, like a lot of gathering the lower tier materials. I make my servants do that, right? I just put them on missions while I go do the other important stuff that I care about, to a certain extent anyway. But I think the sun is one of those things where it's like if you removed that, it would be like removing an entire element of the gameplay, and I think it would end up feeling more bland than it does good.
Smoke bomb.
Smoke bomb. That would be cool.
Smoke bomb. Okay, I go back on everything I said. I love smoke bombs.
So, have you ever considered or internally talked about adding more dynamic events, like to pair with the blood moon? Maybe we could have like an eclipse setting that it happens during the day.
That could be cool.
I think that'd be interesting.
I have already written down every time I go into one of these chats, I have a doc open where I'm just writing down suggestions.
Hell yeah!
And I already have eclipse written down here, so I'm way ahead of you.
Nice,
Let's go.
nice. I want to touch on one thing real quick, and then there was a couple points that I wanted to go back to about the rating before we move on from that. I don't want to linger too long on rating, though. I know everybody wants to talk about rating, but we could go on for hours about that. The one thing, real quick, that all these topics are from Royin. Royin is like the goat here, coming up with all the good stuff.
Oh God.
As far as the Shroud of the Forest goes, right? You end up in a scenario where once you craft it, you're having to hot swap, and then the cape kind of really has no real use outside of the forest, and it's kind of just like, oh, I went to the forest, but I forgot my Shroud of the Forest back at base, and it's kind of just it's kind of an in between thing that doesn't really have it. It's like you know what I mean.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying. Is there a possibility that maybe we could get that in, like I said, like a different gear slot, like maybe a specified gear slot specifically for that item or something, so that we're not constantly having to swap back and forth and or fourth. There you go. You got me saying fourth. Or I got to go back to get my shroud, yada yada. And it's, you know what I mean. I think you see what I'm saying here.
If I did just have an idea for that. What if it was a hat?
A hat, yeah, that's what a hood, like a hood, like fits that that item's description too. Like it's a shroud of the forest, right? And it allows you to see through the fog. Like having something that's something that's on your head or goggles or glasses or whatever the case, a mask. I think would maybe fit the item a little bit better as well.
Lurker helmet.
You guys have to be careful though. Once you do this change, you have to understand. Up until now, hats were purely cosmetical. I think for a reason, and they definitely decided this early on that we're gonna have them for cosmetic reasons.
Yes.
And if we do this change, then it's kind of like it opens up a lot more possibilities for new hats to have different stats. So SLS will have to actually think for this specific change. If we do this, then we're actually committing to something bigger than this. This change alone.
Oh no, you're totally right.
I was going to say, I think it could be like a permanent consumable. I think it makes sense like thematically as well, some kind of like potion to
when you
suck
Ben's blood. He just injects antibodies.
By the way, that is my most hated boss ever, Ben, because without fail, he runs you through all the fucking lurkers, and then the behemoth comes out of nowhere and starts slapping the crap out of you. Then it's sunlight, and then you have to wait a whole cycle to go back and try to kill him. I hate that boss.
Just talking smack. Like, into the forest.
Cyril is the worst boss.
I think he's just a silly little guy, and you're a hater.
Dude, he's actually a PvPer. He's retired.
It actually is a lot easier if you have a duo, but when you try to do them solo, and you're like, I always like skip the upgraded versions of armors throughout the way, so I'd never like. Anyway, it gets brutal in there with the lurkers.
Have you played ETS when they made Ben level 255?
No. I no. I wouldn't play it. I would be like,
as far as and this random guy just runs out and slaps me and one shots me. And I was like, it's really fun.
That's so funny.
Thank you, Godwin.
Before we move on too far, Jeremy, there's a bunch of hats like the Lightweaver crown, Night Lurker helmet, stuff like that you can spawn in 1.0. Are those available in 1.1 finally?
There are, I think, 4 hats that weren't available before that are now available. I think Night Lurker one isn't one
it's
of
like
them.
But
like the Witch Hunter hat, and there were like 3 other hats that weren't available before, and then I looked into it, and I was like, why aren't these available? And people were like, I don't remember.
Yeah, like the Lightweaver crown.
Like, is there any reason we can't? And they were like, no. So we added them.
Nice.
Something else before we move on from this topic that a lot of people are talking about is the ability to maybe upgrade your active cape as a form of the Shroud of the Forest, like by weaving in new materials that could potentially be a fix or a change or whatever. Watch this. Going back,
so
real quick.
I wanted to actually
go ahead, Grim. Go ahead.
Actually, wanted to say one thing on that. So I'm probably the odd man out in that I weirdly like the cape. But one thing that I find insanely annoying is that I think you should no longer view the fog if you're in your own base or someone else's base. Like by the time you pass that front wall, the fog should not be a thing. I think that's what causes a lot of frustration with that cape.
Well, in a territory.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's actually also written down on my thing.
If in
But of
castle,
course,
no
Cape Fear's
fog.
not. And then I just also wrote protection on castle plots.
I should be able to
'cause
throw.
that's
No.
what
It should be only once it's a fully built stone castle that the fog's
Hmm,
Yeah,
removed.
yeah,
Because
for
up
sure.
until then, it's just outside.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then when
No,
you
I agree.
breach,
Like,
and
But you have a
the
roof.
fog like
Within
rolls
your
in or whatever.
Yeah, if room with roof. Yeah, no fog.
Yep, roof.
I should,
There you
I
go.
should be able to capture the fog and be able to throw it at people whenever I'm running through rifts.
No, that's crazy. That's crazy.
A lot of people are talking about a permanent consumable too. They like that idea. Okay, going back to the two topics that I told Roy and I would bring up that are definitely worthy of bringing up about the raid. As far as keying a castle, the animation to unlock the castle heart takes forever, and the defenders can just come out and poke you with a stick and then run back away, and it interrupts the animation every time, and it can be very hard to key a castle when his argument is that once you get to the castle heart, that should be kind of your victory lap of the raid if you're choosing to key the castle. He said that a potential fix to that could be that the castle heart has some sort of HP that once you knock it down, the animation could be a lot quicker. Either way, obviously, I too agree with him that the animation is too long, and the fact that it's interrupted by damage and can just be kind of in that infinite loop is a little bit of an issue. So I wanted to bring that up.
It's my castle, Civil Spectre. Okay, stay out of it. All right, get out of there. Stop putting the key in there.
The other thing he brought up, which is a good point too, is the 60-second attack timer. Is there any thought about that going towards into the future, or as far as changing that, or that being different, or anything like that?
I mean, it could. I'm super open to suggestions about that. When it comes to sorry, let me do them one at a time, so I don't miss anything.
Yeah, go ahead.
Castle Heart King animation being too long. I think that's totally worth looking at. Because I think when we initially did that, the idea was we were mainly thinking about on like merciless servers how punishing it is for someone to get that off and just completely obliterate your castle.
Yeah.
So I think like the thing is like gameplay since then has kind of moved away from merciless. The dominant form of gameplay is definitely just like regular PvP. So it could be worth, I think, looking at the time on that. Or I think it might, especially at this point, trying to implement something about like where the castle heart gets lower health and therefore it like changes the way you interact with it. That might be a little bit difficult to get in at this point. But the time might be something we can adjust.
Yeah.
A good fix, a very quick fix, could be where you don't get interrupted by normal basic attacks. You can get interrupted by a merciless stun. You can get interrupted by an ink cap, freeze, whatever, but no longer get interrupted by just a spear poke, for example, because that's the annoying part.
It could also be, I don't know if this is something we could implement, or I don't know if like, I know the mechanic exists for there to be a damage threshold before something happens because of like knocking people off of horses. Like there is a damage threshold that you need to meet for that to happen. So it could also be something like that. Because I think you should be able to stop someone with a regular attack of some kind. I think tying it to CC is like a little bit too much of a setup. But yeah, just having to do a certain amount of damage, I think, would be good. And then we'd have to find out what that is. I'm not sure.
I mean, I would say, I think what you said about the merciless servers is right. I don't think there's a problem with the castle heart taking ages, because you can keep the castle under attack indefinitely. If you just hit the castle heart, it puts the castle under attack fresh. And the idea is that like this is like the last stand of your castle, right? You know, you're down to you got your pants down, you know, and the enemy's, well, okay, I don't want to follow that analogy, but your castle's vulnerable. It's the last line of defense, and I feel like having to, I don't know what it is, like 6 seconds or whatever to open it and then key it, I think is pretty reasonable, because like I said, the attackers can always just hit the castle heart and it's under attack anyway. So I feel like it gives like some situation of being able to like fend off the raid at the last second, whereas if it was just you just hit the castle heart, it went 1 HP and you just tapped it and put the key in, there's basically nothing you can do about that, right? So I think it's fine the way it is. And you can also, if you guys didn't know, you can also go rat form. and hide, and then you can open it in rat form as well. It'll
Ah.
Got an
Free tip
awesome
right
quick
there.
on
That
that.
should be the standard way of doing it, obviously.
yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
okay.
That's the first thing you do.
I haven't
Go rat
keyed
form.
any castles recently, so I didn't actually know that.
Another thing to consider is that, and I wanted to bring this up earlier. So also, again, to avoid getting on a tangent and not skip over everything, in relation to the 60-second attack timer, I'd be curious to hear what number you guys think would be a good attack timer.
So I'll give you the issues that make the 60-second attack timer that make that an issue. The amount of time it takes for a team. Now, of course, everything is alleviated a little bit, but the bigger team that you have. But when you talk about banshee traps and rat traps and all sorts of other stuff that people have in their base, that's going to extend the time you take, like essentially going through their base. And a lot of times, especially with the banshees, you're going to have to retreat fully out of their base 9 times out of 10 in order to deal with them. And then normally you'll have to de-aggro some of them. If they have a full banshee room, you're gonna have to de-aggro some of them, deal with some of them, and then go back, get some more, yada, back and forth. And that can basically kill an entire 60-second raid timer on its own, just the banshees. So I don't know. I play a lot of solo, like I said, and I don't do a whole lot of raiding. I would like there to be, more solo raiding. So I'm not really. The other guys in this call could probably give you a better answer on that. But those are the issues that make it worse.
Yeah,
I think the smartest way. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I would be hesitant to change it right now because I think there are some things that we are very confident will be different. Like I'm sure changing column health is a good idea on squads at least. But when it comes to other stuff, I think with the changes to with the fixes we're doing to rating, I'm not sure what exactly the meta is going to look like. Things could be very different, and I would be hesitant to make changes like this that could, if there is a problem, massively exacerbate the problem. One thing I was going to bring up a little bit earlier is if we did, if for some reason I was able to make a lot of the changes that we discussed today, I think if we implemented all of them or even half of them, suddenly it
Too
would
many
be
variables.
massively offensively.
Yeah.
It'd be massively offensively
Weighted.
But yeah, weighted, and there would be a lot of variables. The attack timer thing is something I'm really interested in, but I'm not sure it would be a good idea to change it right now. I think that would be a good thing to look at and then change on the next wipe. If it's
Well, I would like to say, so on VWorld and load service, it's 90-second attack timer. But like you said, if the fact golem can hit stairs, I would keep it at 60 seconds. But like you said, because you always want the raid to be defender's advantage, right? Because the punishment for failing a raid is not that bad because golems are pretty cheap. And once you have endgame, if you know how to farm, especially if you do chips or strats, you can pump out golems like crazy. Yeah, of course. So being defensive bias is always good, but the one thing I would say is it should be an option to have in the server settings to change the attack timer, because I'm pretty sure that you can change the breach timer in the settings, right? But you can't change the attack timer. So I don't really see any harm in having that as a setting, because then private servers
No, I don't either.
Can change it, from 60 to 90, and then if it's 2, blah 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 blah, and they can fiddle around with it. Because right now I think when they had it on 90 seconds of VWorld, they had to go through a whole hassle of little blah, 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 modding to get it set up. So just having it as a little private server setting would definitely be significantly easier in that way, and it'd also be easy to test different timers.
Exactly. Yeah. A lot of people will be testing different numbers.
Yeah, and it probably should be weighted based on the combination between the amount of the max team size on the server and the amount of banshees that somebody can pump out. I'd say that's probably the best correlation for what the attack timer should be in terms of the formula there.
Interesting. I think it would be good to. I think that's really interesting. Oh, my brain just died. I completely lost my train of thought. Sorry.
All good. We forgive you. You'll think about it in 20 minutes when we're talking about freaking something else. Then you'll be like, oh. Anyways, okay. The last thing from Royin. Royin, no more freaking good ideas because I keep having to talk about rating before we go into the next subject. There's no indication of when your golems will despawn, and it's customary to drop a bunch of golems at the same time. You'd start a raid, do whatever. And then, for whatever reason, maybe you forgot which one you placed in what order or whatever, something happens, you're fighting, a lot happens during a raid, right? Not knowing when your golems are actually going to despawn is kind of problematic. And I don't necessarily think, by the way, that this should be only seen by the people who place them. I think that could be something that is globally seen by everybody. I don't see a real issue with that.
Yeah, that'd be cool to add a despawn timer. It's on my list.
I don't even think for a visual cue for that, how golems have kind of those red cracks, like that red aura that they have could just dim or eventually fade out, and that'll be a signifier.
Yep, that could be
cool idea to implement. Yeah.
Great.
All right, on to the next topic, guys. No more rating for now until Jeremy thinks of what he was just thinking of. Merciless mode validity I have on here. In games like, of course, Rust and all this stuff. Essentially, a lot of these raid style games, everything is full loot, full loot. But the key difference is, of course, the fact that in Vrising, it's PvE based progression. So you have to have a certain level to be able to fight certain bosses. Otherwise, they get increased damage towards you and increased damage resistance. It was something that I thought of, and I'm sure I'm not the first one to think of it, is that potentially you could have so you lose all your stuff, you die in a fight, whatever, you're level 50, right? You had no problem killing all these bosses, now you have a big problem killing all these bosses, and you didn't have any extra gear because you were progressing, normally without, farming extra stuff, whatever, what have you. So now you're going to have to start over. Maybe instead, you have a PvE bookmarked gear score, and it may not even be 100% of whatever your max gear score was at whatever given point. It could be 80% or whatever. But maybe now I respawn. I have that PvE gear score bookmarked at level 50. So while I may not have the weapons or gear to give me stats towards damage or HP or whatever else going back to fight certain bosses or to go to certain areas to gather certain resources, I'm not going to get the increased damage coming from the bosses or the increased damage resistance going towards them because my level is now inherently lower. It's just that I don't have the stats accompanying the gear that I would have had at that gear score to help me fight the mobs or the bosses or whatever in that area. So now it's not as merciless, for lack of a better word. Any thought towar's that from anybody?
So I actually see what you're saying. That's actually a really good idea. I think it would actually help in some other ways. The idea that I think I've had and a bunch of other people have had on this that I think would be a really cool change would be, so Merciless specifically is just, it's so hard to play right now, especially because the further we go in, the more of a commitment it is, right? So, and then dying a single time and losing like artifact weapons is just the worst thing you could possibly imagine. That's insane. So my thought on that was make it so bosses, chests, and carriages. So essentially, whenever you join a new server, like it's like a fresh wipe, encouragement events have a delay before they start. So it's like a few, whatever it is, like 16 hours or whatever it is. So instead, make it so there's a delay, and after that certain amount of time, bosses, chests, and carriages start dropping gear for the tier that they're associated with. So I'm not sure if you can hear me now, but so so essentially make it so that if you kill whatever you're in, you kill Quincy again, he can drop like a Merc Iron weapon or something. If you kill Beatrice or whatever, she can drop Hollow Fang pieces, etc. So what happens is now it's like, oh man, I just got wiped, but I can just go in and like I have this old gear set sitting around. I can go out and kill someone in tier 2, then someone in tier 3, and kind of like leverage yourself all the way back up quickly. So you can actually, I don't know if that makes sense. So, but again, you'd want to have it delayed so that at the beginning of the server, people don't just go like cheese some boss and get like 50 levels higher gear or whatever. If that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense.
Right. No, I agree with that. I think that would be, obviously I'm not on a part of Stunlock, but I think that would be an excellent idea. And, it would also correlate a little bit with these other, survival games that have this sort of thing, right? Where you're in Rust. I haven't played Rust in ages, but you go and you kill something that's some sort of event or in some area, and it could drop you an AK or whatever. Whereas that's another, I guess, difference in Vrising is you can't actually get the gear piece drops. You get the materials to craft it, and if you haven't gotten to that point yet, or you don't have enough of the materials, then you can't actually craft the gear piece.
Yeah. I think it also helped like incentivize people who are joining late to not be. It's not that big of a deal because they're like, yeah, okay, I joined like a few days late or like a week late or whatever, but I can just go do like a quick Brawlhaven run, get some gear, and like try to jump in and start doing stuff. If that makes sense. But
sorry, I was just laughing that somebody said I can't take this conversation seriously with all the dirty laundry hanging by the third guy.
I think my chat is starting to invade.
We call those chips.
Yes. sounds like a chipsa strat there. Yeah. No, but I agree with that, and I would like to. I think that Jeremy, that this would potentially. We were talking earlier on about how some people the longevity of a wipe cycle and how long players will stay interested. And some people suggested, well, we'd like to see more in-game content, and maybe that would keep people longer. And of course, like you said, the stun lock and Vrising is kind of more interested in having it be progression based, and that is the wipe. I think that Merciless is kind of that maybe bridged gap between those two thought processes there, because having a wipe where you get to end game and then like you still want to kill people and get their gear and raid people and get their gear, and because hoarding gear is essentially hoarding. So in non-merciless, hoarding materials so that you can always have whatever gear you want is the end game, right? In merciless, you would want to hoard gear so that you always have the gear, and having more validity to merciless to where people could actually play it and it not be like this thing where it's like, oh, I died once, now I got to quit, would kind of I think capture a large part of the player base that maybe doesn't have as much fun playing other game modes, I guess.
Yeah, it's an interesting design issue, I think, because the way I see it, and this is very much Jeremy and not necessarily Stunlock Studios, but the way I see it, it's like if you want to make it more friendly, then you're making it less merciless. And then does it then become less appealing to the people who really, really enjoy it? But on the other hand, like when it first came out, like Vrising was a very different game. Like there was a lot less intense progression. We didn't have legendaries. It was less painful to lose all your stuff, especially at the end. So things have shifted over time. So that might not be the case anymore. It's difficult to say. It might be worth it to make.
Is brutal right now.
Yeah, it might be worth it to make like a less merciless version of merciless. Just like how when we first did raiding, it was like all the officials were daily raid, and over time we were like, yeah, and then I was like, we need to yank this back significantly because people are just quitting. Everyone just gets offline raided. So then we switch it to basically it's like just weekends now. Like there's almost no daily raids. In fact, I posted that one of the servers were a daily raid, and I saw people saying like, does anybody like daily raid? It sucks so bad. Like people don't want any daily raid servers. So yeah, I don't know. I think things have changed over time, so it might be worth looking at.
Yeah, I think maybe the main thing there, or at least from my perspective, is that playing this game for a long time, and when I do play it, I kind of know life it. I'm kind of the everyday player. I mean, you see the merciless population plummet. Like it'll obviously skyrocket with the rest of the population whenever the big updates happen. But I mean, within a month, like you can't find a merciless server with double-digit players on it. And I think maybe the consideration there might be the player base that's currently playing merciless, which is definitely very small, versus the player base that could be, I think, is potentially a lot larger if some changes were made to make it less merciless, I guess.
I think like just having the super accelerated progression from being able to get like full gear piece and stuff would offset some of the annoyance of losing everything. Like I really like the idea, because there is the whole thing of there's a lot of bosses that are like easier to cheese at lower levels, but I think that's like kind of in the spirit of Merciless anyway, because you basically have that kind of thing with, if you manage to kill a higher level player, you get all their gear immediately and you're springboarded up. high level. So I don't think there's much harm in being able to do same kind of thing like PvE side.
Yeah.
So, I haven't played much Merciless, so I'm not aware. But when you die in Merciless, do you also drop your jewels for skills?
No.
Like your...
No.
Okay.
No.
Holy shit, that would be
That
that
would be- oh my God.
There's just a little pinata when you die. Just
You spawn back in the tutorial, back to Lumbridge.
I definitely think one thing I think with Merciless, I don't think you should lose your cape. I actually don't know if you lose your bag on Merciless. I haven't played Merciless in 1.0.
Oh yeah.
But you shouldn't lose your cape and you shouldn't lose your bag in Merciless.
If I lost a perfect mistrans jewel, I'd be in global
no.
chat immediately. Get that back right now.
Yeah.
One of the things about making Merciless kind of playable in today's settings of Vrising would be, instead of just losing your entire kit, would be maybe losing 1 to maybe 2 items instead. So some random items in your gear could drop instead, and so you're not completely out of the game. But of course, you can't just run it back now that you're, I don't know, like 7 to 8 gear score lower than you were just a minute ago.
I think the fundamental
So that
problem
could be something.
in this game is that in order
Your
to
mic,
competitive
Gypsy.
Oh, sorry. Hello?
Yeah.
You're good, you're good.
I think the biggest problem with Merciless in this game is the fact that in order to be competitive in PvP, you need to be using like basically between 6 and 8 weapons. And then when you die,
that's a good point.
you have to then craft 8 weapons again, which is super painful. And even when you kill someone, almost all your inventory is just all their weapons and their gear. And I think that is like, if there was a system like when you kill someone in Rust, right? You get their armor and stuff, but generally they have 1, maybe 2 guns, right? Like no one's carrying 8 guns in Rust. But because you carry around 8 weapons, it makes the logistical side of playing Merciless really annoying. Like that was the biggest issue I had when I played Merciless. Like I remember me and Biscuit played Merciless at 1.0 at the start, and it was like you'd kill like 3 or 4 people, and you just didn't have enough space in your base to have all their loot.
Yeah.
Because everyone was carrying around. I mean, this is even in Copper when people were carrying around only like 2 or 3 weapons, and when you get to the end game and stuff, that problem just gets exacerbated by such an incredible degree. So, outside of changing the weapon system, which I think the weapon system is amazing, so I don't really know how you'd ever solve that problem. And then I think obviously the suggestion someone said earlier that of having it so that like weapons can drop from gear chests, from like loot as well, from mobs or from chests, I think is something that would also be needed to be in Merciless as well, to allow you to like accelerate your progression. But I don't know, I think Merciless is cool as a concept, but I don't really think it works in Vrising, at least not long term.
It definitely.
Yeah.
It does seem like the way things have, like I said, the way things have progressed, it's kind of moved away from the sort of game where I think Merciless works really, really well. And I think we like to keep it around, like for the people who really like it, and I want to keep it running, and I don't want to take anything away from everyone. But also, it does seem to me that the amount of changes it would make to make it work are basically like designing an entirely new game mode.
Agreed.
That's fair. I think that the main thing is maybe the accelerated PvE, like several of us were talking about.
Yeah.
I think that the core. See, I would play Merciless. I would play Merciless if there was a way to like not have to farm endless hours of PvE after death. Like if you like, I died at PvE sometimes. I'm terrible. I'm notoriously terrible at PvE, and I just like some level 10. I want to say a lot of words, but some level 10 guy comes up, he's looking for a base, and then he's like, oh, look at this level 70 guy that just fell over next to this boss. I'm gonna, I'm in Gloomrot doing my thing, and he's trying to find the last base spot, which is in Gloomrot, and now it's like, oh, okay, well, now I'm starting over, and now this guy's got a boost. It's like having accelerated PvE, I think, because the core the want to play Merciless is the focus on PvP, right? That's like the want to play Merciless, in my opinion. That's where the player base is going to come from, and I think that you wouldn't sacrifice much from accelerating PvE. Now, whether that's something that Stunlock can actually do and implement, and whether it's a whole different game or not, that's a whole other issue. But I think that would probably be the big thing.
So
that's one thing, though.
I spend a lot of time reading feedback, and one impression that I've really gotten from people, because like when you read a lot of feedback, you start to kind of find like there are certain types of players. very specific things and approach the game in a very specific way. And there's a lot of overlap between what these players like. For instance, I think especially in our game, because our PvP and our PvE and everything like overlaps so much that, for instance, like if I were to say like this person's a role player, like that person can also fit in the same box as like many PvPers, many super hardcore PvEers. And a lot of hardcore PvPers fit in the exact same box as a lot of PvE players. However, one thing that I've noticed, I think that is very specific to super hardcore people who love Merciless, is they love the feeling of risk, of like losing something or gaining something, or like that intense like thrill of like really feeling like you're going to lose something if you die. And I think if you accelerate the PvE too much, you kind of really you lose a lot of that.
Yeah, I think there would definitely be a balance to be had there, but I do agree with you in that it should be full loot. I do disagree with Bogdy in that you have some gear pieces that would be safe. I think that shut up, Chips. I think that Merciless in nature is it should be full loot. Aside from obviously like super specific things like jewels and capes or whatever else packs.
Adjacent
I don't
to
know.
loot from carriages, have you guys considered putting carriages on the map?
Yes.
Is that going to be in 1.1?
Okay.
I haven't like gone in super deep with any designers and gone like, hey, why did we choose to put them on the map or not on the map? So I don't feel super comfortable speaking on their behalf on that. But there are a lot of pros and cons. For instance, the way Mortium ended up, basically, or how it kind of is now, right? With like, you end up in situations where there's a lot of really intense gatekeeping. And like once you hit that point, like it becomes very much like whoever is the strongest person now controls Mortium, and everybody else is locked off, and they have to like eat the scraps from like the zone to drop like a few shards.
That's true. That's very true.
And originally those zones weren't even there. We added those in response to witnessing this behavior. So thinking about like if carriages showed on the map, and then especially if because like my initial reaction to the we should add loot drops in other places so that it sort of speeds up progression, is then you're going to end up in a situation where everything is being gatekept by those people. They're now going to be roaming the map and just murdering everyone everywhere, especially if on the carriage routes, especially if they show on the map. And also one huge issue that used to be the case is it used to be possible to get the artifact weapons or shattered artifact weapons from like any boss, like level 7 up. And when we initially did that in testing, the problem we had was everyone was camping those bosses, and it was impossible for anyone to be progression. Like it was basically gatekeeping, but like super. Some people do it because they just love, for the love of the game, they just love making other people suffer.
Yeah.
But if you incentivize it, like then everybody's going to do it, and it's completely justified. So there was a lot of danger to adding that.
That does kind of. Unless somebody else has something specifically on this topic before I continue here.
I just like one last thing with Mortium.
Okay, you and Graham.
I'll go first.
Yeah, you go first. You go first.
So one of the things I like about Mortium is that the idea is that you can do these events. They're like high risk, and you get like rewarded by like a lot of the materials you get. You can take them back to your base, put them in a Stygian circle, and you get like iron and quartz and copper and sulfur, all that sort of stuff. And this is I haven't really thought this through too much, but have you ever thought about when a boss spawns from Mortium? Have you ever thought about when you kill that boss, it actually unlocks the boss that it was in Mortium? So like, if I go to Mortium and I get, I don't know, Keely, and I haven't killed Keely, for instance, it would then give me Keely as like an almost a way to change the progression from having to do every single boss one by one. You can then just go to Mortium and then farm that way. And yes, the boss is harder in theory because it's level 60 rather than level 20 or whatever. But you can get boss progression from that.
Also, that would make up for a lot of the skipped bosses by the time you make it to that point. Because I mean, I never complete every boss like ever. That would be
That's
good.
gonna change.
That's
I have a feeling that's gonna change.
It was somewhat revealed. It was revealed. I mean,
if we do that though, is there a potential case for abuse? Because a big problem we had like all throughout Gloomrot were people coming onto servers, the team, getting fed in-game gear, fed in-game stuff, and then kind of like snowballing for like same day type of content for raiding. So is there a case where people would come into servers, do that strat where they just camp out rifts, get all their bosses, get all their gear, whatever, and then they're ready to fight?
I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be faster though, right? Because
Nah, it
you'd be
definitely
kind of
wouldn't be
relying
faster.
on RNG to.
Yeah, that's
But it'd technically be faster to do just go to Farbane, just like nuke through all the tier 1 bosses. Like it's a pain, but it would be faster.
That's a fair. Yeah, that's fair.
It would. I think it would create some very niche strats.
Gives a strat.
I mean, I'm not sure. A niche strat. I'm not.
Skip laundry, farm mats.
Yeah, just never kill Keely until the end of the game. Yeah.
Without talking to any designers about it and thus being unable to speak for them, essentially, my initial reaction is that it seems like an inefficient thing to add, kind of. Like, I'm not sure what problems it would cause, and it would solve only maybe a very niche issue. So
Yeah, that's fair enough.
maybe probably not.
I think the only person it would affect was me. So
Yeah.
like, I have an idea of what I want to do, and that would be
The
part of it.
speedrunners. It would help the speedrunners maybe speedrun better, and which
Yeah.
would be problematic to the Timmies. Not
Because it's like the
terrible
idea is
Timmy, but-
I want to accelerate my progression, but do it in a way that causes risk, right? So I go to the Mortium events to get bosses and to get loot, but then there's always the risk that I can get ran down by like 15 clans, right?
I think also, like, I feel like I would be hesitant to add more reasons for people to monopolize Mortium.
Yeah, that's fair enough as well.
Okay. Next topic. I wanted to bring up. We mentioned it kind of very briefly earlier. It was actually a lot higher on my list here. I just skipped it. So, Jeremy, the social menu. The social menu is really only used in a predatory way currently.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And
Okay. Yeah. I mean, aside from the first 5 minutes of the game where you're like, yeah, let's clay it up and do our thing. Other than that, it's only used to make sure your raid target is offline. And I kind of have like a little thing that connects to this here. I don't know if this necessarily needs to be changed or not, but I personally don't like the names of castle hearts being on the map. I don't mind them being like when you walk up to a castle, you see who lives there, but on the map, it makes it very, very easy to target people in correlation with the social menu. And I don't think that's necessarily healthy for a game with this sort of structure like Rust. Like, think about if I told a Rust player, hey, I can tell you exactly whose base is who and when they're online. Are you in? They'd be like, that's got to be cheating, right? You know what I mean? And that's kind of like how a lot of us feel with Vrising. Is there any thought going into that in the future?
Yeah. I mean, there are issues with it in terms of like, I almost don't want to talk about it because I don't want to like spread it in case there is anybody who doesn't know about it. But like, there are other ways to use a social menu that are problematic. That
Are you potentially referring to the top of the list?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
There are things that I need to check in about to see if we did change them.
I mean, I can tell you that it's definitely a little bit of a struggle for me because I play so much solo and because I have all you Hive little zerglings in the chat. They know who they are. They love to give me visits on servers in numbers that are nearly impossible for me to deal with based on using battle metrics, and then they're really easily able to find my base and tell when I'm online, and so targeting specific people is very easy, and it's anyway, that's kind of my stance. I would love to see it
I want to hone in on kind of one thing you mentioned.
revised.
You talked about removing the ability to see who owns what castle by just kind of like open up the map and looking at plots. I think that would be a really positive change. And it wouldn't completely eliminate the whole social abuse issue, but even the aspect of kind of like having to like you get into a competitive fight at like rifts, and then you're like, oh, that guy stole my rifts. I'm gonna figure out
Oh,
where he lives,
yep.
you know, and go
Yep.
get you. You know,
I've done
feel-
that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think having that removed kind of adds like another layer of gameplay. And this is completely unrelated, but I kind of remembered what I was gonna say before we got to this. Something that
Go for it.
is highly needed. Because in a game like Rising, where it's so progression focused, you pretty much you play wipes, right? Things are very repetitive. So when we're talking about adding things like carriages to the maps, I don't think that's a good change, because when you get that random encounter where you're like running towards Wolf and you see a carriage, or you know you're in Dunley and you just have a carriage pop up, that element of spontaneity or like just random encounter, it feels really good because it changes the experience.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel like that's something that should stay, and I think taking the names away from plots adds another layer of kind of like mystique to the gameplay experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, emerging gameplay is kind of what Vrising does best.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think I think that is a pretty good point. There are things about like the social aspects of the game, like for instance, like we never added a way for you to change your name in game that like you have access to. We actually recently added, I think we the ability for like an admin command to rename people because it's just nice to have for admins. But for players, we didn't really want them to be able to like, you know, delete their vampire and start a new one with a different name on a server, because we don't want people to. We want your reputation to matter, like on the server. Like if you go around, you do a bunch of messed up stuff, we want you to pay the social price for it, basically. And I think showing your name on Castle Hearts is part of that. Like if somebody raids you, you should be able to raid them back, right? But it is possible that the way things have ended up have not been, you know, more negatives than positives. So I don't know, something worth bringing up to the team, I think.
Yeah, and
Again, I don't necessarily think it's bad. Sorry, go ahead, Grim.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say I do want to clarify. I think viewing, like if you're in front of a castle, you should still be able to mouse.
Yes. Okay, that's what I was gonna say.
But just from opening the map, you should not be able to go plot to plot and be like, where do you live? Like you should have to actually go and find that castle, like put in the effort. I think that would be really interesting to see in Vrising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I really can't stress enough. I love getting all the feedback, and I. Sorry, I'm dying. Okay, I'm alive. Oh god. Oh, sorry. I love getting all the feedback, and I just want to be like really clear, because I don't want to get like your hopes up, because it's like 2 weeks out from the patch. There's like not going to be
right. We do understand that. Okay.
There are some of these changes that are like mostly numerical that might like that might be able to happen. But I'm not
that
really
and
sure
just
about
delete
that.
the social
We're
menu.
very focused on just delete it. There are some things about the social menu that I think like having people available on the social menu to be able to like mute them and have like an easy way to like do that sort of stuff, I think is important.
Yeah.
But so like if we did something like that, I think maybe a good way to do that is to instead have on that thing have, because like we need it to be intuitive for players to understand that they can mute people and can like turn off their voice chat, stuff like that. So it might be, maybe we could have something on that menu like it's just a box that like you type in a name, and if you know their name, you can type it in the box and it'll mute them or something. Or like but then like,
oh no,
and maybe
this could be the character.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
oh yeah, then you're just gonna sit there and writing in, and then it gives you no feedback.
No, exactly. I was just about to say that. If it gives you no feedback, then it would be fine. It would be good, because like if it still works, but it doesn't give you any feedback as to whether you picked the right server to stream snipe or hunt down some like, you know, somebody specific, then like, okay, it's good, because it'll still mute them, or it'll still send them a clan invite or whatever the case may be. But you just won't know that on the other end, which would be very, very good and helpful, because
I don't know. I think that might be bad in almost every occasion, which like in every circumstance in which someone is not specifically trying to abuse it, it's extremely bad to have a bunch of things that give you no feedback.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
But like if it was just kind of understood that if you like type in someone to mute, it mutes them whether they're online or not, and an invite is sent whether they're online. Like you being able to tell that a person with this name is on the server might be kind of unavoidable. But
Whether they're online or not, yeah, that would be better.
yeah, whether online or not, I think is the thing you
Yeah.
want to try to protect against.
I agree. I think that
There
would
is
be
one thing.
Yeah.
There is one thing about this social menu that's going on, and probably has been a thing since even before Gloomrod. I'm not even sure, but there's one way that people can make sure they stalk you forever and they know who you are, or they at
Yeah,
least
that's
have
the
an
thing I was
idea.
trying not to mention.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
what we don't want to mention.
Okay, I got you. So I'm glad you know about it. I'm glad you know
Yeah.
about it. It's one
Yeah,
of the
it's
main issues with
something
the social tab.
I have talked to our tech team about it.
Yep.
The intent was to change it, I believe. I'm not sure if it was in 1.1 yet, but we'll check in about it again. That is one thing I would really like to push to change because I think it's extremely problematic, and I don't like there being any way to exploit our game to
Well,
do things.
Pretty
like
sure
It
there's a
just-
tutorial in the Hive Discord for how to do that to me.
No, listen, it just defeats the whole purpose of you trying to go undercover. Because sometimes you don't
Yeah.
wanna gather too much unwanted attention, you know? Especially like if you're an unknown player, it gets more problematic, especially for Civil when he's streaming, for example. So
Yeah, I mean, I
so
think it should
yeah,
just be like, I think you should just it should just be tied to server, right? Like you shouldn't. It shouldn't.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, none of my clan ever uses our names anymore.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
always
I was
just, like,
gonna mention that
random-
as a caveat to it. Like nobody ever uses their real names unless, like, I don't know. In my case, I do because I get people that come into the stream. They're like, "Hey, I'm in the server with you," yada yada yada. And that's like, I don't want to sacrifice, the potential to grow my community and interact with these people just to use a fake name. But that's what I should be doing if I want to avoid like all the people who are trying to use it in a predatory way.
But
The
that
malicious
being
way,
said, I have maybe like 10 more minutes.
Okay, crap.
Alright.
Treasury room.
Treasury room, is that what we want to talk about?
Yeah. Go to that. Let's get something for everybody.
Okay. Why don't you talk about what you want to talk about there then, Timmy? What specifically
that was
did
on my
you?
list. I just saw the list and saw that. So it says treasury room and stables functionality. I was going down the list of.
Yep. Okay. So then, as a general question here, Jeremy, we'll pose to you. Could you maybe talk about the treasury room and stable functionality as far as you are allowed to
Yeah.
without?
Yeah, I'm super happy we're adding the treasury. It was something that people every time I post a blog or anything ever, we get like 15 comments. They're like, "I don't care. Are you adding craft and chat?" And I'm like, "We are, but I can't say it." And I'm glad I could finally say it. We are adding it, and I think we found a way to add it to the game that feels like it belongs in the game. Like we never want to. The thing is, like, we do think the inventory management part of the game is important. We think it's important. Like, the game is about crafting stuff. Like, a lot of it, so much of it is just you getting stuff and then putting it together and then you craft the thing. And there is, like, I know a lot of people don't necessarily feel this way, but there is something you really lose if all you do is you get the stuff, you don't even look at the stuff, you walk in your place, you mass dump it into a chest, and then you go and you do other stuff. Actually interacting with the items that you're like getting and making and the feeling of being like, I did that and having it. The feeling of actually having it is important. And I think the treasury does a good job of like walking the line of not making it so you ignore the fact that you ever got these things, but also like making it convenient to use them and like you don't spend all of your time just running around putting stuff in chests, taking stuff out of chests, counting to make sure you have enough stuff in your current inventory so that when you run across your castle, you go, I left 2 pieces of stone, and you have to like run back across your castle.
Yep.
That's a nightmare. I've done it. I've been there. I hate it. I'm so glad we did it in a way that it's like, okay, you have a room that is like a vault. That is the place in your castle where you keep your stuff, which is how castles work. So it just makes sense.
Yeah.
It feels good. I love it. It fits the fiction. And in addition to that, we've also added routing, which is like it's called redistribution, the redistributor engine. It's like a thing that then allows you to later on, after you've killed Black Brew, you get the ability to essentially like make an engine that allows you to connect crafting stations to chests and other crafting stations, so that you can then like move your items from one station to another, and then without having to like do it all manually. And then it'll put stuff back in your chest for you, so you don't have to run back and put everything back. So but it's all
That's one of
something
the-
you set up. So.
Because I was going to say, because that's one of the things in Rust that I really enjoy, right? Is that when you start Rust, you start your playthrough, you just dump in everything in random chests, and then when you progress through, you get more and more electrical equipment. Like I always do it on my wipes. I always create this system where you have a dump chest, and then it pumps all the stuff into the right chest, and that sort of shit's so much fun to do because then it's almost like a pseudo character progression type thing, right? You start off with all your shitty chests that are all messy. And then you progress, you're getting, and in Vrising, you're getting the better chests, right? And then eventually you get to the point where now you can just dump your, like you have all these redistribution engines, so you don't need to manage them as much. But it's not just done for you by magic. You have to set it up, which I think is the fun part of it.
Yeah, it gives you the feeling of like you're actually managing your castle, and the idea is it should be like you should have to interact with it in some way. And it should give you some sort of satisfaction when you do it too. It shouldn't it shouldn't be an inconvenience for its inconvenience sakes. It should actually feel good when you do it. So we're trying to make something to feel. We're still messing with it. We're still trying to like get it perfect. But the idea is unlocking quality of life things as you go along, like we talked about earlier. Like you unlocking things that remove inconveniences that you had earlier on. And you get that feeling of like I'm the dude now. I now have a huge castle that like half operates itself, like that. I think it's great. I'm so glad we're adding it.
I think like especially because like progression just gradually adds like more and more layers you have to think about. It's nice to then have the sort of progress in making things more automated to go along. Like, so you don't have to think about all these extra things being added on so much because you've got this good quality of life to help balance it out. It's
exactly.
really
Also, I want to mention for anyone listening, because I've seen some people like questioning this, like when do you unlock treasury floors? I'm pretty sure you unlock it like mid to late Farbane. So you don't have it immediately, but you definitely get it way before Gloomrot. So I know if people were like half listening, they'd be like, "Oh, you unlocked it at Gloomrot? That's so late." No. You get the treasury floor part. It's the redistributor engine that you get later.
Yep. Last top. Oh, does somebody else have?
Real quick. So Jeremy, what about a vampire Roomba so that we can go ahead and get little spots to have servants farm our own vermin nests, and then a Roomba sucks it up and puts it in a chest? Thank you very much.
I actually had a really funny idea earlier because I was watching someone's video of going over the Sholo queue. Like she always goes so intensely over our stuff, and I love watching it because the speculation is hilarious. One thing she was saying was like looking in the DLC, the like pillows that were all over the ground. She was like, "Are these like? Do you have to place these, or are these like automatically generated?" And that idea is so funny to me. That like you're like auto generating, like your servants like left a bunch of shit laying around and you didn't clean up after them.
I was like, who left all this shit on the floor?
You need to get a servant that then cleans up after your other servants.
Was it you, Grayson? Like shoving his face in it. Anyway, all right. Last topic here that I see that's like actually of some bit of importance that I wanted to talk about before you go, Jeremy. We saw from Gloomrot to 1.0, we saw the one hotbar slot taken away, and of course that was due to the need for controller support, and a lot of people also think that it may have been part of the skill gap, being able to shorten that maybe a little bit for newer players to have a more fun experience and not just get dunked on by all the more experienced players. As far as going into the future here past 1.1, is there a method as far as Stunlock is concerned to decrease the skill gap? We saw a lot of stats versus skill in the in-game of 1.0, and I'm curious as to whether we were trying to lengthen, decrease, or anything in between the skill gap, keep it the same for the future between more experienced players and less experienced players, new players coming into the game.
I don't think we have like anything we're doing specifically to target like lowering or lengthening the skill gap. I mean, I think it kind of is what it is at this point. Like anything that we would do to like put our thumb on that scale, I think would be kind of it feels like not really our role. You know what I mean? Like, if we were to do that, I think it was something we should have done before 1.0. But now that we're in 1.0 and the game has been out for this long, I think it would be kind of inappropriate for us to go like, okay, now it's time to make you guys worse at the game and you guys better at the game. Like that feels like kind of.
Yeah, there's nothing you could do about like that wouldn't be controversial. Like you'd always be upsetting someone no matter what you do.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, like we
bit
know that
lose-lose.
there's the infinite battle going on between should we lower the amount of like weapons that can go on the bar, and
Please.
to be clear,
Yeah,
we
let's
have no
go.
intention of doing that. It would be it's if we were going to do that, we probably should have done it already.
Yeah,
At this
it would
point,
definitely
Jeremy.
alienate a lot of the more experienced players.
You need to understand most of the arena players, well, you know, the sweaty PvP players as we're being called. We're at this point where up until 1.0 it was kind of easy to kind of have all the weapons in your bar, more or less. Then came 1.0 and you guys introduced whip and we had the what was it? Not only whip.
Pistols,
Anyway,
Longbow.
Longbow.
longbow. Yes, there you go, longbow.
Oh,
So
and
then
1.0,
we had
sorry.
to
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 1.0. And then we had 8 slots for more weapons. So our
Yeah.
brains were like, well, no way we're going to be able to handle all of the weapons now. 1.1 comes around in a few weeks and it's going to be like
14 weapons.
okay, now we have three more weapons and we still have 8 slots in our bar. So right now we have to accept the fact that we're gonna have to let go of of many weapons, and we're like, what we're saying, what the request is for the PvP players is, could we maybe have, I don't know, because in raiding especially, there's this case where you always have to swap. You have like major bombs, but you already have 8 weapons on your bar, so now you have to tab in, swap one of your weapons for the major bombs and then actually use them, and having to do that back and forth is very, I don't know, it breaks the flow of the gameplay a lot. So
And
that's our
because
issue, you know.
because of that,
Lowering
there are a lot of macro players. They are using macro for the inventory spot.
yeah, that
No,
also
no
kind
comments.
of
No
promotes
comments.
This is something too
that
that
promotes a lot of
We got 'em.
shady stuff.
I think
They are.
almost the perfect fix for that, because we've had conversations, I'm sure, with all of us here have had conversations about this, talking about consumable specific hotbar slots. I think something that would be actually a little bit easier than that, hopefully, would just be adding some type of functionality where you have like the emote wheel or the transformation
True.
thing that pops up, and adding something
Mm.
where you can do it there would, I think, be a lot easier to implement.
The consumable wheel.
I like that. Write that down on
Right
your
there.
notes, Jeremy.
That would be crazy good.
I have one more question.
Go
After after 1.0, there is they shot a bug, guys. It's really cringe, and if I missed the shot, I'm losing my motivation to play game. It's really bad. I don't know. Do you have any plan to fix that?
You're talking about the Veil auto bug? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
So I think it's specifically with the spear. I don't know if it's with another weapon. I think the spear is the only one that attacks quick enough after the veil to actually trigger the bug, Jeremy. But the bug he's referring to is after you veil and then you quickly auto with the spear, it follows your WASD instead of your mouse direction if it's too quick after the veil, and it's really frustrating because now you sacrifice that really important auto that was empowered and you can't get it back.
Yeah, especially with Blood Dash.
Wait, I remember this. I remember going really into this a long time ago. And if I remember correctly, this is a visual bug.
No, so it was a visual bug in Gloomrot, but in 1.0 it became an actual bug. So the spear, when you auto with it, which like he's talking about, it does have the quickest attack speed. So if you're in melee range after you veil, it is the the easiest weapon to actually hit your auto with. But if you're too quick, it will actually bug, and the direction of the spear will go towards your WASD instead of towards your mouse direction, and cause you to miss that empowered auto with your Veil. So like he's talking about with your blood dash, you won't get the heal back. With any of the dashes, you won't get the effect. With the frost, you won't freeze them. It's really detrimental to especially using the spear after the auto, which is the preferred weapon if you're in melee range.
Yeah, that makes sense. For some reason, I feel like this was fixed, but I will check into it to make sure, because I mean, obviously that's a problem, and if there's a time to fix it, it's not. So.
One thing is about this is Jeremy, I was in that conversation that you remember like 3 or 2 months ago. You guys were talking in the arena chat with like Nemesis, and I don't remember, like I was in there and I did some tests as well. So the thing is, it looks like a visual bug because it have a visual bug part as well. So when you dash auto, it is like 80% visual bugs somewhere else, but it still hits the direction you're hitting. But sometimes like it is like dependent about CC as well, if I'm not mistaken. Because right after I got spear queued and I try to dash auto, generally that happens when it don't hit. Or like when I get Mace E'd, and after that Mace E, he, like, let's say he Mace E'd me, he whip autoed, and when I try to Mace Q, not just dash auto, but the Mace Q as well, when I try to Mace Q the guy, it's just Mace Q's backwards. And like makes it
You can test this with the XE. XE is very easy to demonstrate how this works, but it's pretty much the same for every weapon.
So the reason you remember it as the reason you remember it as a visual bug is there's a visual bug part of this, which is like 90% of the bug. But in that 10% that makes the actual bug happen is actually frustrating.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the visual bug part of it is also a huge problem, right? Like, I remember when we first talked about it, like having, like, I talked with the designers about this, like about it, and it was like, hey, it's a visual bug, and I'm like, is it like, with it just being a visual bug, how much of a problem is it? And they're like, yeah, it's like still a huge problem because like the visual feedback is extremely important. So it's not that it being a visual bug means like we're like, it's fine. Like it being a visual bug is a huge issue. I was just wondering, like, is it back?
It's been in 1.0 through the duration, and I don't know if it's connected to the CC, but they are like a go-to that I like to use is if you're getting spear queued, you come out of it in a greatsword queue. It's hard to see the greatsword queue coming, but you know, so like in Vrising, if you hold an ability while you're getting CC'd or while you actually can't use that ability, it will enact the ability as soon as you can, right? So while you're getting, I don't know if it's just spear queued or if it's CC'd another way. I think Verdalt was talking about if it's you get Mace'd, so it should be like it will hold a direction from like where your input no longer is when you're actually trying to enact the skill. So like I see myself getting spear queued at the beginning. I am holding greatsword queue, but it's like holding an old directional for it, and then that's the directional it enacts.
Exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's connected to the spear veil auto bug, which is also, like I said, very detrimental to PvP in the game. But
all right, I will say this: if there's anybody listening, anybody out there and I know you're there, that are in the beta and can take like a video of this and a detailed explanation of what's happening and send it to me or post it on the beta bug report forum that we have, and then I can copy it in and make sure something gets done about it immediately. Please do that.
I already have like
anybody who's listening.
I'll send it to you. I got like 10 clips of it.
Oh my god, he's in the beta.
There we go.
Get him. All right.
Everybody ask Regulus for an invite. He's got one.
Actually, it's Cassandra. He's got
I do have to go. Like,
he's got the goods.
Yeah. Go, Jeremy. Go, Jeremy. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah.
Listen, one last thing, please.
Oh,
yeah. If there's one last thing you guys have to say,
yes, please. It's last thing. For me, it's very important. Please make it so we're not forced to automatically take all our consumables in our hotkey, in our hotbar. Please make it so it only behaves that way once our bag is full, because so many times
you start trying to auto somebody with a flower.
Yes, yes. No,
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's crazy. It's because all of the consumables in the game, they go straight into your keys.
Yeah, this is
Mhm.
hard.
Yep.
Really, when you're used to having a full hotbar slot. Let's say you're
Yeah.
farming and you pick up like an unsullied heart. All of a sudden, you go to Reaper Queue, you don't have one, and you just start drinking a heart mid combat.
Eat a heart, yep.
That's why if you're smart, you just put like wood in those slots. So when you pick
Yes,
up
I do
consumables, you
that.
don't go.
Yes, yes.
Exactly. But
That's
it's a
called the
crazy
chipster
way
strap, by the way.
Yeah. No, I had to learn it the wrong way. The amount of times I have, let's say, left alt on as a key, same as chips, I'm pretty sure. So that's the key that we mostly worry about because we alt tab and we hit a rat that's on my alt key, and I just waste my 100% blood by
This
hitting
has
a
happened
rat
to
or
me
a
so
heart.
many times.
Yes.
Specifically, if I die and then pick up stuff afterwards. But wait, I
Yeah.
always thought that happened if you don't have full bars.
No. That only happens with the
Yeah, yeah.
standard items, and it should behave the same with all of the
Right.
items.
If your hotbar isn't filled out and you pick up hearts, seeds, potions, I can't think
Yeah.
of anything else, but any placeable, consumable, anything else, it'll just drop into those slots before it drops into your actual inventory bag.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree that is super annoying.
Yeah.
And I'll see if we can.
This is why it was the last thing, because it's
Yeah.
just like a quality
It's a
of life
it's a
that
slam dunk.
everybody would love.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay,
guys,
great.
let's let Jeremy go.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Jeremy,
guys.
for tuning in. We may be
Thank you.
doing another one of these in the future. This
I have 10 more
turned out-
questions for you, Jeremy, before you go.
Guys, DM Jeremy all your questions. No, just kidding. Don't do that. Jeremy, I'll catch you later. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, now we just got the
Finally, we can
boys
shit
left.
talk him. Oh.
Yeah.
No, we're not gonna shit talk anymore.
Finally.
All right.
Finally, he's gone. Yeah.
Do you guys still want to talk about the other things that we had, or do you feel like this is a good time to wrap it up and we could do a future episode for other things? What are you thinking here?
I wanted to get y'all's feedback on something.
Yeah, go
There's
for it.
this UI element above the nameplate, above a player nameplate,
Yep.
where like if you get blood raged, and there's the blood rage, and then there's the little timer. But if you get a power surge, Aegis, old soul burn, I mean whatever, it will be hidden because the blood rage is shown, right? So you only ever get one. You only ever get one piece of information on that, UI element. So I was thinking we get like little those buff icons above the action bar. Just have those like small for active buffs, like blood rage, the 5-second timer ones, whatever. Small above that nameplate.
Yeah, we definitely should have access to all information in terms of status effects and buffs and whatever is on us, especially if they're temporary.
Should add weak auras to the game.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Can you imagine that shit?
Yeah,
if you play WoW.
I play a shit ton of WoW. So whenever I like
Fucking
hamstring
nerds.
someone, I want the giant hamstring above the bar.
The second you have a heart strike on you, it just plays a massive alarm sound.
That's kind of a tricky. It's kind of a tricky thing to implement, because if you think about it, they could just add another status on top of the first one that was applied, and then just collapse them as they expire. But what if there will be cases where you have like an entire team, like a 4-man team, that gets frozen leaped into something else, and then it's just like a bunch of shit on your screen that you don't see anything anymore.
I mean, have it a cap of like 5 or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So with that idea, I think we talked about this a little bit. Regulus,
or Reg. You can call me Reg.
Reg. Okay, Reg. So I think we talked about this a little bit. I think one way to do that would be elemental status effects below the bar as just like a dot. So you just
That was a good idea.
Yeah. Oh, I have the green dot. Oh, I have the red dot. Oh, I have the whatever. So okay, I'm affected by that element. And then like, buff stuff you put above the bar. So in terms of elements, you can just track it by looking at what color you have, and then the buffs and stuff. Yeah, that I totally agree though. Like buffs, debuffs all together. You probably have to pick what you want to show.
Some of them take prio too. Like some of them have priority.
True.
Like blood rage will take prio over phantom aegis and power surge. So you don't get to see him. It's only like the visual on the character.
Or maybe like you have that could be good. I was thinking like if you're frozen, you could have like a little blue thing around your health bar that's like, hey, you're frozen or whatever, like stuff like that, or static. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, there's how many? What is it? 6 elemental effects on your character. Like visibly on your character's model, but they don't. There's only room for one. Like you'll only ever see your frozen or whatever. Or
the thing with UIs as well, it's like everyone's going to have a different preference on what they're
Yeah.
like rather prioritizing. It's sort of why in WoW you see people with such like vastly different UIs that they have for themselves, because it's like depending what information you care about the most.
Yeah, I'm sure
Just
that
give us
wouldn't be
options for like rescaling the.
Yeah, I'm
icons
sure
better.
that implementing something, a system where we have the option to choose what we want, is probably more from a coding perspective than implementing an option where, or implementing a system that just gives you all the information in a predefined way. So, I mean, from a difficulty perspective, from Stunlock, I'm sure it would be more difficult to do that, even though it would be more preferable for the player.
Or just toggle it like on equip mode.
Yes.
You know, I want buffs above my
That's
bar,
exactly-
or I
yeah,
don't want buffs above my bar.
Exactly. You make like a UI element where it's just like, I want to display all debuffs, yes or no. I want to display all elemental effects, yes or no. I want to display all buffs, yes or no. And you just check the boxes of the ones you want, and then that's just what it is.
That's valid.
Or-
That's valid.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think a quick fix on this, like as we have it right now, would be to simply always give you the freshest one or the most important one, which would be kind of like the debuff usually. You want to see for how much longer you're going to be weakened for example, or
Hard
static
CC
shocked or whatever.
Mm.
or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would prioritize that, you know.
the most important one is like where it becomes difficult though, because it's like you got to weigh up what is the most important one. Like if you got like a power surge on you, a pistol on you, a freeze on you, like which one do you like want to see? Like getting all of the like semantics of that figured out is where it becomes
That's
tricky.
crazy.
Yeah, it's
that's
weird that it's also not the latest buff. You know,
Mm.
like you can have a blood rage and then a power surge afterwards, and that's hidden.
Yeah, I think it's
Well,
probably
then, for
just.
that-
Go ahead.
Yeah, you go.
I was just gonna say it's probably just however they originally coded it, and then never changed. Like the way it displays to the player has probably just never been changed. Is my guess on it.
Yeah. To me.
Well, in my opinion, just check your passive bar, bro. Like,
No,
I
that's
just check my
so
passive
bad.
bar and I see that.
It's so, imagine like the weak aura thing. Imagine whenever you get hard strike, you just see the icon slowly go in a circle until it pops. Like that would be, see it somewhere else, not have to check with your eyes on the left screen while you're getting 1v3'd.
Well, then one thing could be like you don't have to show the timer for that freeze and illusion for like chill illusion. But what they could implement is just like little green boxes, like little, not green, but little boxes, like little squares on top of your head. That is like, if it's green, you're condemned. If it's like light blue, it's illusion. Like you don't, if you want to see the timer, check your passive bar. But if you want to see if you're affected, you can just check by that little square that is that colored. So you don't have that huge UI that is like on top of that, 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 but you see what is on you.
Yeah, that's
In
what
a
I was saying.
basic
Like cap it at like 5 little icons or something, and
Five is still
pieces
too
of-
much.
I mean, the UI element is already huge. Like when you get blood rage, it's this giant UI element that says blood rage in all caps.
It's a
Yeah, but imagine have 5 of them. Then.
Well, no, I'm not saying 5 of those. I'm saying the icons above your hotbar, just make those but smaller. And
He's talking about like where you have the elixirs, or not elixirs. They're called, what are they called? In
Oh
1.0?
yeah, I got you. So the smaller ones on top of the health bar. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah, and have a cap of 5, and so even if there's like 7 things happening to you, 5 is more information than 1. You know.
Yeah, most recent 5 of them makes sense.
Yep. All right, I'm gonna take a look at this topic sheet. Was there anything else that anybody wanted to hit on before we disband the Rising Avengers here?
I want to ask to you guys actually if the thing I was thinking about like for almost 2 years now is the raid system. When you level up your castle to level 2, you're basically unraidable to like level 70.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bad thing in my opinion. Like level 2 castle have the same defense as level 5 castle, and it doesn't make sense. What I suggested Jeremy in somewhere is that when you get to level 2 castle, yes, you have stone walls, and somewhere around like level 32 to 37, whereas like Nicholas and the Iron Boss, you could have a place that you open the stone siege golems. So you can start raiding at level 35, 40 to your enemies, level 2, level 3 castle hearts. And then when you get your castle heart to level 4, you get a recipe for reinforced stone walls or like reinforced iron walls. So you can like make your walls reinforced iron with reinforced plank plus iron, or like just iron ingots.
Yeah.
And then another boss to open iron siege golem. Like it's like an iron golem we have in game. It's like clicks faster. It just like shoots at your direction.
I'm confused. But you saying that like when you have castle at level 2 and like you should be in progression at level 40, level 50, that your castle's just as strong defensively as if it's level 5. But this is not true, right? Because you don't have servants, you don't have banshees, and you probably don't have that much honeycomb. And the siege golem is way stronger early than it is late because you don't have optimized stats. You don't have optimized damage.
You don't have siege golem.
Yeah, you don't
No,
have
but you get siege golem pretty early though, right? You get siege golem like level 50.
Easy.
No, you
Like
cannot.
you can't sure you can't raid till you get golem, but when you get golem at like a level 60 raid attack versus level 60 raid defense, honestly the attackers have more of an advantage, to be honest. Because the chances are that the castle that you built is super. It's generally not going to be optimized. It's not going to have servants and shit.
I think what you're hitting at.
But the thing about it is like, this. Let me say this. Where you upgrade your castle to level 2 at level 20. It's just leather and copper. And by level 55, you're untouchable. Like it's whole 40 levels, like almost like 1/3 of the game. You're just untouchable, literally.
What were you gonna say, Grim?
Like in Rust, for example, you can just Molotov raid someone with a wooden door.
Yeah, I was gonna say
before they swap the metal door.
What you're hitting on, I think, is that we need progressional rating systems in the game, and
the
fact that we go from wood to stone, and then it's just stone the rest of the gameplay is what needs to be adjusted.
Yeah. I would.
The reinforced iron wall and iron golem would just fix the issue, in my opinion, and it would be more fun as well. Like imagine. Make the iron siege golems a little bit harder to farm compared to stone siege ones.
Yeah.
And iron siege golem can deal damage to iron walls and of course the stone walls. But the stone can only deal damage to stone walls, not the iron walls. So I mean,
basically. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So the person that want to raid have to make iron siege golems, and person who wants to defend could choose like, should I reinforce all of my base with iron or just like the first 2 layers so they cannot breach me without iron siege golems?
Yeah, I mean, basically.
And this has another. Yeah, go
ahead. No,
I will go.
I was gonna say basically kind of like Rust, where you have progressively more expensive and more effective ways to raid people, and also different ways to raid people, whether it's a timed explosive that one person can throw, or a some servers have like freaking catapults and shit now that I've seen, and you have rockets and everything. There should be progressive levels of defenses as well as progressive levels of attacking in terms of rating, as far as what you can use and how expensive it is versus how effective it is. Right.
And that adds another like type of gameplay for like, I'm level 20, I find like someone's just griefing me, like a level 30 is griefing me again and again and again in my Keeley, and I just can level up to 30 and raid that guy, because I will have the stone siege golem and this guy will not have reinforced iron walls. And the extra thing is, it would add people that like, do you even build your base before you find 100 worker and you're level 80? Tell me.
No.
Do you even build
I don't build my base before raid window, dude. My base is like, I have like the Civil Spectre special. Like, dude, my base looks like complete. It's cancer to like move around in. It's terrible before like raid window, and then like 2 hours before raid window, it's the Taj Mahal.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you start a server, you make things, you level up. You don't make your castle. I just placed 2x2 sawmill place, like 3x2 or like 4x2 forge flooring, 3x2 tailor floor, and that's all. Like whole my castle. Till I'm level 80, like literally. But and
that's a little bit crazy.
If you add this, you have the people that are grinding have to at least build some part of their castle, at least the entrance, so they're at least a bit secure for like early on raids.
Okay, I like your idea, but saying that you can go until level 80 with no castle is kind of crazy, man. Usually by level 60 you would be already raiding as a PvP player. That's when you start raiding around 60s.
Yeah.
And with that loot, you get so much planks and bricks that you don't have to do anything. You just have to level up and just make the upstairs of your base usually. But yeah, I would definitely love to be introduced to the raiding a little bit earlier and not just with minor bombs, because let's be honest, I don't want to grief someone with a wood castle, but I'm so down to raid someone with a stone castle, which is just level 40, but I'm 35. Sure, let's bring it on. Let's go. So that's really good.
Let me ask you,
And
Chris, that
I always thought about.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that kind of brings me to an interesting topic I want to broach to you guys, because like we've had discussions in the general channel of the Discord here about different rating mechanics, and like we've talked about like domination form mechanics, like auto turrets, that type of thing. But the issue with all of those is that like anything you create that's autonomous, or even for like just a solo rated perspective, is going to be abusable by anyone in squads, or maybe even just like utilize more than siege golems from a squad perspective, because you get that freedom, right? So what do you think would be a good addition for like additional rating tools?
That's an excellent point.
It's a tricky.
I think the only thing I wish they'd add is some functionalities for EMPs to be used in raids.
That would be cool.
I don't know what you'd use them for, but I think the fact that there's EMPs, and in theory, they're relatively expensive because they take batteries to craft. Would end up adding like a nice little resource sink. Whereas right now they're completely fucking useless, right? Outside of just getting into Adam, that's the only use they have.
AoE stun the servants, man. That would be crazy if like an EMP bomb would just AoE stun either the banshees or whatever is caught in there.
Even then, like it wouldn't be better than bombs, because just put 2 bombs and it kills the servants, right?
You AoE lock the doors.
Sure.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Servant doors.
Lock doors. Nope, can't get out.
What if
That's
it
so
was
insane.
something to where like you set it up and then it prolongs the raid timer, like the either raid timer or the attack timer for the raid?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was just thinking they add some form of defense as well that EMPs would then counter, but I don't know. I haven't really thought too much about
It's
it.
tough. That's a really good point that Grim brought up. The fact that things that are more that are going to be effectively used as solo and raiding would then potentially be abused by bigger groups. Like I don't really. That's a tough hurdle. I mean, obviously the key thing that you would just have to make happen is the fact that the golems would be more useful than anything else that you would be using as a solo. But I mean, then you still have the spawn time and everything else, and with all that under consideration, I mean, and the fact that a player in a golem is considerably more vulnerable than a player who's not in a golem. It's just that's definitely a tough tackle.
What
and I don't really know.
Give golems defensive abilities is what I just heard.
Yeah, give golems
a shield.
Yeah, make it the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger Megazord.
Yeah.
Give him discharge.
Yeah, give him discharge. Mistrans.
Big T-posing golem.
Yeah, it's because like I would love for there to be all these different type of progressional forms of raiding, but anytime I think about it from a defender perspective, even if it's just like a solo or a couple guys, whatever, you do get some type of advantage, like if you're outnumbered, by just waiting for one player to get into the golem before fighting.
Yeah.
And if they have some type of tool where they can just like set something aside and then still be in the fight, that's insanely strong.
And it would be more strong for bigger groups. You're right.
Okay, wait. Someone in my chest kind of cooking. What about a dome shield? So if you're EMPs, right? We talked about EMPs.
Yeah.
Imagine you had a deployable on the defensive side to block people. This would be so cancer. Actually, I'm thinking about this. You use it to block golem range attacks.
Oh my god.
You use it to block golem range attacks, and you're just like, I'll put this EMP down. So you have to use an EMP to break it. Or sorry,
so stairs.
Break it. Stairs, yeah, but non-breachable stairs. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. This is actually a tough. I don't know. Maybe the answer doesn't lie on the attacking side. Maybe the answer to this, or the solution to this issue, lies on the defending side in terms of what tools do defenders have in order to make it so that both solo and group raiding can happen effectively and fairly for both sides. But I don't really know off the top of my head. I can't think of anything right now that what would kind of equal the playing fields for something that could be useful as a solo and then wouldn't be abusable as a group.
This isn't like a solo golem thing, but I was thinking I'm always like the golem dude in my clan, and I was thinking instead of the range attack being like a forward, ground thing, have it be like like you throw a void, like a boulder or something, so that way all the servants or banshees or whatever the hell else is going on during your raid isn't just infinitely blocking your ranged attacks. So you need to like chuck a boulder,
I was actually just thinking kind of on that same topic while you were saying that. Like, what if you could have like some sort of siege cannon that you put down a certain distance away from the base or whatever, and then you can fire, like you were talking about, boulders or whatever else sort of projectiles at the base, and it's a thing that you can get in and out of easily. Maybe that's the answer, because with the golems, if you want to get out of it, because obviously you are weaker if you're trying to fight a player inside of a golem than you are outside of a golem. You're going to have to break the golem, fight the player, then get into another golem. What if the answer is not necessarily something solo versus golems, but maybe it's golems that you can get out of? Because I mean, then you're taking the fight separately from when you're raiding. If you get out of the golem in an inopportune location, it's still in a place where the defenders can damage it and destroy it. But then you're not as a solo putting yourself at a serious disadvantage by getting into something that's worth X amount of resources and you only brought X amount of, and now you have to get out of it and it's destroyed. And now you're like, okay, well now I have 1/5 of the raid resources that I brought. Should I get in another one? And then maybe I have, you know what I mean? Like, or that method wasn't right. 4/5 because you're down one golem. Anyway, point being, maybe being able to get in and out of the golem would be a good change to rating.
That is interesting.
I actually like that idea.
I would say that I don't think it changes much from defenders, right? Because if you're trying to wait until you have a numbers advantage, you would just wait until they push into your choke and then unleash everything on the golem.
Right.
That's there.
Right.
I would say if we did do something like that, we would probably want it to maybe do less damage than the golems that are, that aren't able to be re-entered. That way, like, if you're solo raiding, you still have an option, but it doesn't become like something that clans can just kind of like hop in and out of the fight whenever they want to without any sort of consequence.
Yeah, I'd say that maybe adopting Verdalt's Stone Golem versus Iron Golem idea there might be worth it. Maybe the Stone Golem is something that you can get in and out of that's weaker, but the Iron Golem is something that is a one-time use but is stronger or something like that.
The idea for what you guys are talking about, let's say you have like a ballista or some sort of catapult, I don't know, is the main difference would be obviously you can move with the golem and you can continue raiding, go inside. Whereas with this ballista, to make it fair, you would have to place it in one spot. It would be kind of squishy, like it should be kind of easy to break as well. And you can't move it. That's the main thing. So you're only going to be using it to breach through the first door and maybe get to the next one after it, but that's it. Otherwise, you get the rest of the raid, you would just have to go inside and actually breach the doors with your melee weapons or whatever.
That's actually really interesting.
So that could maybe work.
So with what you just said, I'm kind of picturing like setting up a cannon somewhere, and then like instead of attacking, say, the initial choke, I'm attacking like a wall. Like let's say it goes up one tier of cliffs or something. You get siege on a wall, and then you push into the choke with like already in siege, trying to damage him
with breach.
That would alleviate what you were talking about too, Grim, about how the defenders would be waiting for you to get into the golem to push you out. Now, if it's something that you have set up far away, can't move, you can get out of it once the defenders come out to fight you, and it kind of like levels the playing ground, especially from a solo perspective.
It does.
It would have to like arc though, because I'm imagining some chips to strat right now, where you have the Silverlight stack and North Silverlight.
Just finish
Imagine you've got the right plot. It's got the plateau in the back. You just put one on your castle, and you just freaking breach the other castle for free whenever you want.
Yeah, just jump right down into someone's crafting room.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have to be. I mean, it would have to be not placeable on an actual territory property. Like,
Yeah.
it would have to be placed outside of the actual property.
Outside on the street.
Yeah.
I have so many things to abuse that, but yeah.
I mean, yeah, you could go farm bosses with a fucking ballista, maybe.
Well,
I mean, there would be
I'm
definitely
saying-
things
There's certain
that could
bases
be
that-
issues.
I'm saying there's certain bases that have ledges that you just like drop on a ledge that somebody is like a bunch
Yeah.
of base, and
Yeah,
you-
I know exactly what you're talking about. One of them is my favorite spot that I like to use.
People used to kill sticks by just placing like a bunch of TNT on the bridge.
Oh, I do.
I mean, yeah, there would have to be some considerations and stuff, but I think that overall, I think that what we just talked about, all in all, is a pretty good start to the being able to raid solo, and also maybe making some edits to group raiding that would make it more enjoyable and fun and fair without ruining the integrity of it.
Yep.
Remember the goal.
I feel
and shit?
sorry for any PvE enjoyer that was expecting us to talk about PvE elements. I think we mostly touched on PvP related stuff and topics. I think.
I mean, Jeremy's
Yeah.
done like 100 interviews with people, and it's pretty much exclusively PvE.
I mean-
kind of players.
Not to mention for all the infinite topics around PvP that we can talk about, the infinite topics that are PvE related span much further. So, it just
True.
kind of is what it is. Let's see. Was there anything else you guys wanted to talk about? I have to
No,
take
I think,
a mean piss.
Yeah, I think me and Chubba both have to leave. So
Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap it up, guys. I appreciate you guys all for showing up. We may have to do this again. This was fun, and I had a good time, and I think the chat enjoyed it too. Moving my webcam around to not block anybody every time you guys put your cam on and off. Anyways, thank you all for joining. I'm going to dip out and end my stream now, and I'll see you guys all in 1.1.
see you
Yeah,
later.
take care.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you for
See
having
you
us,
guys.
man.
Bye.
Catch you guys later.
Take it easy, boys.
See ya.
Yeah.